Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Shinigami, a double god, younger brother Aizen. Chapter 71, Ring River. Seeing that Shang was shocked, Muramasa immediately turned his head and stared at Lan Yan and Aizen with cold eyes. It doesn't matter why you are here, as long as I repeat your Kyoka Suigetsu hypnosis. This time, Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni is not here, nor are the other captains of Gotei 13. Just hypnosis, the Zanpakuto of your two brothers, is easy for me. Muramasa knew that the way to calm Shang was to be in front of the opponent, the Zanpakuto of the hypnosis Lan Yan brothers. This time, without the restraint of other court captains, he can use all his power on the Zanpakuto of Lan Yan and Aizen. He is confident that he can also control the Zanpakuto of Lan Yan, who was unable to hypnosis before, and can suppress himself. Right, whatever. As long as I take the Zanpakuto hypnosis of you two brothers, nothing will matter anymore. After Shang heard, it seemed to grasp at straws, and immediately suppressed the panic in his heart. There is no hook to kill. With the sound of screaming, Muramasa immediately stepped forward, trying to enter the inner world of Lan Yan brothers, and forcibly instilled Zanpakuto with the idea of rebel against the master. Bankai. Seeing that the village is about to invade his spiritual world, a smile flashed across Lan Yan's eyes under the framed mirror. He didn't stop him either, allowing Muramasa to break into the spiritual world. Since you want to see Zuin so much, then go for it. Just, don't regret it. Your name is Zuin, right? The relationship between Zanpakuto and Shinigami should be equal, even higher than Shinigami, because everything about Shinigami comes from you. So, instead of submitting to Lan Yan, you should make him submit to you. As the scene in front of him changed, Murata soon appeared in a world where one was black and one was white, even the sun in the sky was also black and white, and he also saw a red statue with one black and one white eyes. Shenlong, entrenched on the top of the mountain, stared at him condescendingly. Knowing that this is Lan Yan's Zanpakuto Candle Yin, he immediately activates Bankai's ability to forcibly hypnosis the opponent. Are you finished? Candle Yin looked at Muramasa expressionlessly. Quote? Muramasa was stunned, but just nodded. Roll. With a sharp shout, Shizheng clearly saw that the world was turning upside down. In the originally black and white world, sometimes the sky is dark, and sometimes the sun is hot. As black and white turned, he found that his body was going backwards uncontrollably. No, it should be more like time is going backwards. Who do you think I am? Even Kyoka Suigetsu doesn't dare to mess with me, you mere illusion Zanpakuto, something like gravel, dare to play hypnosis in front of me. In a daze, Shizheng faintly heard a sentence. When you come back to your senses, you know when you are already beside the river. It was as if nothing had happened in Lan Yan's spiritual world just now. This strange change made him feel panic for the first time, who thinks highly of himself and regards all Shinigami's Zanpakuto as nothing. He involuntarily looked towards Lan Yan. I don't know if it was a coincidence or what, but Lan Yan just happened to look over at him. The sights met in midair, seeing the banter in each other's eyes, and Muramasa suddenly felt horrified. Even Ryujin Jaka, who faced Yamamoto Uenyazai Shigekuni before, never brought him this feeling. Hypnosis is gone. Never mind. Let's start with hypnosis Aizen's Zanpakuto. Zanpakuto wants to pick the soft ones to hypnosis. After being deflated by Candle Yin twice in a row, Muramasa no longer dared to provoke Lan Yan. He immediately turned his head and sneaked into Aizen's world, but found that the scene in front of him hadn't changed at all. It is still the scenery under the stage of Sokyoku. Did not enter the mental space of Aizen at all. He was completely dumbfounded. First, he was rolled by Candle Yin, and then flew out, and then even lost the ability to sneak into Shinigami's spiritual space. The successive setbacks made him doubt his life for a while. Muramasa, what are you still doing? At this time, Shanghai's impatient voice came. Obviously, seeing that the Zanpakuto on brother Lan Yan's waist did not materialize at all, this made him both uneasy and irritable. I can't hypnosis their Zanpakuto. Muramasa opened his mouth, his voice full of bitterness and shock. Even Ryujin Jaka of Yamamoto Genryusai, as long as he is given time, he is confident that he can hypnosis the opponent. But Lan Yan's candle shadow, Aizen's Kyoka Suigetsu, brought him an unprecedented sense of fear and frustration. What? Didn't you say that as long as Zanpakuto is your servant? You can't tell me hypnosis now. It's just two Shinigami, how can you not hypnosis their Zanpakuto? After hearing this, Shang-He roared hysterically. Apart from the shock and anger, there was also a trace of unbelievable disbelief. Lan Yan's Zanpakuto seems to be able to control time, he just roared and drove me back to the time period before I entered his spiritual space. I suspect that his Zanpakuto is not a dark Zanpakuto at all. Or, after Bankai, it's another gesture. Muramasa's words made Shang dull. Time. The Soul Society's ability to manipulate time is not without it. Such as Kido forbidden technique time stops. But what about Lan Yan's Zanpakuto? It is obviously a dark Zanpakuto, but why can it suddenly control time? You can't control Lan Yan's Zanpakuto, what about Aizen? That Kyoka Suigetsu is just a Zanpakuto of the water system, not even the strongest. Don't tell me that a third-rate Zanpakuto of the flowing water system can make your village go home. Shang-He took a deep breath and forcibly suppressed the fear in his heart. This is the second time he has returned without success on the same person. In the meeting hall of the first team before, Zanpakuto was caught by Lan Yan before Shikai, and he suppressed it with his ability in advance, but now he has Bankai, and it still doesn't work. Muramasa fell silent. He also couldn't understand why he couldn't even enter Aizen's spiritual space. Even the spiritual space of the strongest Shinigami Yamamoto Genryusai has been released so that he can enter and exit freely. Please don't embarrass your Zanpakuto, Ring River. For him, this is an impossible thing to accomplish, not to mention that my Zanpakuto is not a flow system at all, and I have been keeping it from you. I am really sorry. As compensation, I formally reintroduce myself to you. Aizen chuckled. Nice to meet you, I'm Aizen Sosuke. My Zanpakuto, Kyoka Suigetsu, has the ability, complete hypnosis, which can control the five senses, whether it is Shinigami or Zanpakuto. It can make them mistake the posture, shape, quality, touch, even smell and reiatsu of a certain object as an enemy, make a fly look like a dragon, make a swamp look like a flower field, and just look at Kyoka Suigetsu once, will fall into complete hypnosis forever. That said, do you understand? As soon as this word came out, both Shang and Muramasa's expressions changed in horror. Others may not be able to instantly understand that Kyoka Suigetsu holds all of the Zanpakuto, but the two are a Zanpakuto of the illusion department, and a Shinigami who holds the Zanpakuto of the illusion department. Look no further than the Soul Society, and no one knows what Kyoka Suigetsu's abilities mean. Illusion. Illusion. Strongest Zanpakuto. Your Kyoka Suigetsu is not a flowing water type at all, but an illusion type. Shang took a deep breath, and when he looked at Aizen, his eyes no longer had the same condescending and dismissive look as before. Too deep. This pair of brothers hides too much. At this moment, he suddenly realized what his father-in-law Kuchiki Yinling had told him some time ago. Brother Lan Yan, none is easy. Even Aizen Sosuke, who was considered by him as the protection of his elder brother and his teacher Yamamoto Genryusai before, became the vice-captain of the first team and snatched his position as the captain of the special forces of the first team. Creepy existence. So, it's not that I didn't invade your spiritual world just now, but you gave me the illusion that I failed to invade. A flash of amazement flashed across Muramasa's eyes, but his face was extremely ugly. As a Zanpakuto of the hallucination department, he has always been the only one who hypnosis other Zanpakuto, and there is no time when he is hypnosis. However, in the face of Kyoka Suigetsu, who is also of the illusion department and is the strongest illusion department, he can only be deflated, only to be hypnosis. That's right, Aizen nodded with a smile. He doesn't lack patience and forbearance, but after hiding for so long, it's not bad to come out occasionally for a breath of air. That's the reason why Shang and Kunjang acted in such a play. The original intention was not to play with the two of them, but to please myself. You guys, it's really deep enough to hide. Cheated everyone. Wait, Aizen you. Shang-He suddenly noticed something, and when he looked at Aizen, his face was full of astonishment. Good. The captain and vice-captain of Gotei 13, as well as the officers and players of the first team, the fifth team, and so on, all won Kyoka Suigetsu's complete hypnosis. Just like the two of you. Aizen is very satisfied with Hibiki's current expression. I see. From the beginning to the end, everything is at the mercy of you two brothers. You do so many things just to drive me out of Gotei 13 and kill me. Shanghe's face changed unsteadily. In the past, every word that Kuchiki Yinling had said to him came to my mind one after another. In the past, he was influenced by power and jealousy, and he couldn't listen to it or understand it at all. Now, he suddenly wakes up. Especially that sentence. Not every Shinigami is called Lan Yan, not every younger brother is called Aizen. This pair of brothers is too scary. Just as Hirako Shinji was removed from the captain position of Gotei 5th Division and replaced by him, a similar thing was reproduced on himself. Don't think too highly of yourself. If you just want to kill you, one knife is enough. You are not qualified enough, let us perform this play just for you, Shanghe. Lan Yan couldn't help laughing when he heard Shanghe's words. Frankly speaking, he was really reluctant to kill Shang, but after all, this chess piece is quite useful. Even after Shanghe's death, this man's name still has value. Not me, could it be? The Kuchiki family. Shang is not stupid either. After experiencing repeated blows, his ambition is also growing. At least, it is not ignorant, at least, it is possible to guess some of the purpose of the Lan Yan brothers. Why? Thinking that the real target of the Lan Yan brothers is the Kuchiki family, but Shang didn't understand why the two would do this. The head of the four nobles is not as simple as it appears on the surface. Having been a married son-in-law for more than 50 years, he can't figure out the background of the Kuchiki family. No wonder you dropped the last name Kuchiki. It seems that Kuchiki Yinling really doesn't regard you as a member of the Kuchiki family. He didn't even tell you about the attack on us. Lan Yan pretended to be surprised and looked at the dazed Shang. The geniuses of corpse records can be roughly divided into two types. One is me and my brother, who are born with powerful Reiatsu and the potential to stand at the top. The two are some lucky ones, who are not outstanding in themselves, but because they have obtained the fragment of the Soul King and can use its power to become a so-called genius. I said so, do you understand? Aizen smiled lightly, gently lifted his glasses on the bridge of his nose. However, hearing this, Shanghe was still in a daze, unable to understand Aizen's words at all. Then let me be more direct. In the eyes of Kuchiki Yinling, you appear to be a son-in-law, but in reality you are just a fragment of the Spirit King. When you still have value for use, keep it first, and once you lose value, then extract it. Paving the way for his own grandson, Byakuya Kuchiki. Seeing this, Lan Yan shook his head. His words made Shanghe's face change in horror. Shard of the Spirit King. Byakuya Kuchiki. So, no wonder, you will marry your daughter to me, you will let me marry into the Kuchiki family, you will give me the surname Kuchiki, from the beginning to the end I am just a fragment of the Spirit King in your eyes, just a handful Muramasa. Shanghe trembled all over, as if he had been hit hard, his face gradually became ferocious. After all, he is also the son-in-law of the Kuchiki family. What is the Spirit King? What are Soul King fragments? He still knows something, but he didn't associate it with himself in the past. Actually, you should thank us. Thanks to us, you can be yourself before you die, even if it's only for a few minutes. Aizen made a quick fix. Do you think you can kill me? Shanghe raised his head, showing a ferocious expression. He is like a beast at the end of the road, ready to choose someone and devour him at any time. Great eyes, after 50 years I seem to see your waking eyes. Seeing this, Aizen not only wasn't afraid, but said appreciatively. This is what Shang really looks like, not what it was before. Repress nature, put on the collar. As the loyal dog of the Kuchiki family, I didn't think about whether I could kill you, but I have already killed you. Lan Yan shook his head. Big words, Shanghe snarled, and just as his right hand was on the handle of Zanpakuto, his cold eyes suddenly tightened. Puff! Before he could take any action, there was already a sharp pain in his shoulder, followed by a ferocious bloody mouth, like a scarlet centipede, climbing all the way from his chest to his back shoulder blade. Fresh blood sprayed out along the edge of the knife, staining the face of Muramasa beside him red. I've said it, it's been cut off, but you didn't see it. Lan Yan stood behind Shang, turned his head slightly, and glanced at him. Ring River. Muramasa looked worried. You're staring at Aizen. Lan Yan, I'll take care of it. Shanghe endured the pain, pushed Muramasa away, and pointed at Lan Yan with a knife. His eyes were fierce. The reason why he has fallen to this point is due to all parties. After learning everything, even if Lan Yan wants to let him go, he will not let him go. The shame of being teased. The anger of being cut off. Let him forget his fear, and just want to live and die with Lan Yan here. What's more, he also knows that even if the situation has developed to the present, it is impossible to escape, so it is better to let go of your hands and feet and risk your life. Hate me, that's right, bring it on. This time I will give you special treatment, and I will help you with a knife. Faced with Shang, who was so full of hatred, Lan Yan smiled, gently pushed aside the long-sleeved haori, revealing the zanpakuto at the waist. Aren't you going to help your master? Don't worry, I won't kill you. A battle that ends in an instant is not worth watching, not to mention there is no opponent in the Soul Society that can make the two of us swing knives at the same time. Seeing that Muramasa was guarding himself with a knife, Aizen put his hands in his pockets, saying that he would not make a move. Do you think I'll believe you, Aizen? Although Aizen said that he would not make a move, Muramasa remained unmoved after hearing this, but obeyed Shanghai's order and stared at Aizen, for fear that he would disappear from his sight. After all, not long ago, he and Shang were played by the opponent's Kyoka Suigetsu again and again. If you force the king, teach him how to believe it. Lan Yan, you better not underestimate me. The other side. Shang He held a knife in one hand, and vented his whole body, like a raging tide, setting off flying sand and rocks, and waves of dust. King Kong exploded, accompanied by the sound of abandonment chant. Fierce flames bloomed from the tip of the knife, and in the blink of an eye, it gradually formed a red fireball like a miniature sun, and blasted towards Lan Yan through the air. Do you know, I didn't underestimate you at all. Because I can't see you at all. Facing the Keto fireball flying across the sky, Lan Yan didn't even look at it, and looked up at the sun hanging on the Soul Society. It's noon. The murmur fell. A huge and incomparably golden beam of light descended instantly from the brilliant day, submerging his whole body, and dyed the captain's feathers on Peasy's body into gold. Hiss. With the sound of high-temperature steaming materials, the ground he was stepping on began to turn red, and bursts of white smoke came out, as if being burned by flames. The rock and soil quickly turned into a red liquid similar to magma. Without any movement, just standing casually, a fiery Reiatsu that looked down at the world and regarded everything as nothing had already spread out. The strong oppression and fiery air waves made Aizen not far away feel frightened. This feeling was only experienced by the group when facing Yamamoto Genryusai. What's this? Seeing this, the eyes under Aizen's framed glasses couldn't help flashing with surprise. His brother's Zanpakuto is the strongest in both light and dark elements, and he knows this. But this is the first time he has seen Lan Yan's gesture. Bathed in the golden light soaring into the sky, like the sun god, it shows the posture of the King's Landing Soul Society. Call. Facing the flying Vajra burst, Lan Yan just glanced at it, didn't even draw his sword, just opened his mouth and blew lightly. Puff. He had already come to the front of the body, and the red fireball of the hot Reiatsu was blown by him, like a burning candle on a birthday cake. It was extinguished on the spot, leaving only curling smoke. What kind of ability is this? This scene moved Shang with horror. He was almost going crazy. One moment, it was Zanpakuto of the dark type, and the next moment Muramasa said it could affect time, but now he is showing the attitude of the sun god. Lan Yan's Zanpakuto, he couldn't read it at all. Didn't I tell you? Candle Yin is the strongest Zanpakuto of both light and darkness. By the way, let me show you one more thing. Lan Yan slowly pulled out the Zanpakuto from his waist. In the sky and in the world, I am the only one. Under the scorching golden light, the Zanpakuto in his hand seemed to turn into a sun blade, exuding astonishingly high temperature and dazzling golden light. Candle Yin is the unity of light and darkness. Since the shining candle Yin has the Shikai form of heaven and earth, I am the only one. Does that mean that the dark candle Yin also has a Shikai form similar to the sky and the world, and I am the only one? It seems that my brother's Zanpakuto is far stronger than I expected. Seeing this scene, thoughts in Aizen's mind turned violently, and there was a trace of curiosity and expectation in his eyes. Soul Society, how could such a Zanpakuto exist? Shang He took a deep breath, forcibly suppressed the horror in his heart, did not believe Lan Yan's nonsense at all, and then used his own Bakuto. Shadow binding. The shadow under his feet instantly turned into dozens of black lines, restraining Lan Yan's shadow. At the same time, he held up the Zanpakuto, the billowing Reiatsu rose, and the surrounding temperature dropped rapidly. Sokyoku Terrace, no, the slopes outside of here are starting to freeze. Next second, the huge ice and snow, like a giant dragon devouring everything, dragged the terrifying low temperature and swept towards Lan Yan. A bit more presentable than Hado just now, but only a bit. Seeing this, Lan Yan raised his left hand, stretched out his index finger, and moved forward a little. Boom! Under a loud noise, the icy and bone-chilling ice and snowstorm was directly stopped in front of him by his index finger, and he couldn't move forward at all. When his index finger moved a little forward and touched the ice and snow, he felt like he was wearing a scorching sun, and the dazzling golden light burst out into terrifyingly high temperatures, evaporating all the ice and snow that was close at hand. The teeth are bright. The ice and snow had just dissipated, and dozens of Reiatsu rays of light fell from the sky, like a laser rain, falling on Lan Yan's body. Bang! The huge explosion turned into a beam of Reiatsu light, engulfing Lan Yan's whole body. This is the price you pay for despising me. Blue Yan Sosuke. Shang fell on the block, looking at the beam of Reiatsu's light rising into the sky. His face was icy cold. I should have told you. Quote. Suddenly, a voice came out from the Reiatsu beam of light, and then the Reiatsu beam of light split from the middle like a courtier welcoming the emperor, and dispersed to both sides. Lan Yan walked out of the beam of Reiatsu's light unscathed, then raised his palm Zanpakuto, pointing directly at the sun in the sky. Before the knife swung down, the overwhelming golden Reiatsu surged forward like a torrent, making Shang feel like a mountain, and his breathing became extremely short. Please call me Captain Lan Yan. Lan Yan looked down at the Shang River, his right hand fell in panic. Boom! The blade falls, and the sword appears. Accompanied by violent earthquakes and mountain shaking, a golden sword pressed down, like a laser storm that devoured everything, across the entire place of execution. 81 of Bakudo splitting void. Looking at the mighty, pouring laser sword pressure, Shanghai's pupils constricted. He wanted Shunpo to dodge, but no matter where he ran, the knife was enough to drown him. Terrified, he quickly gave up singing and released No 81's Bakudo, creating a splitting void wall, like a majestic Nuo Jiao's mountain, standing in front of him. My splitting void can completely defend against Hado in 89. It's just a knife swing, it's nothing to worry about. Shang he kept comforting himself in his heart. However, click, a cracking sound sounded, making his expression instantly stiff. When the laser sword came across the sky and fell on the wall of the splitting void, it was just a face-to-face, and the wall of the splitting void that he relied on to defend against number 89 became like cracked porcelain, covered with shocking scars. Finally cracked lungs. The distance from collapse is only an instant. No. Seeing this scene, Shanghai's eyes were quickly filled with panic that spread. Call out. At the critical moment, Muramasa didn't care about guarding against Aizen, and rushed to Shanghai's side in a flash, holding a knife in front of him. Boom! Just after all this was done, the walls of the splitting void shattered, and the overwhelming laser swords pressed down like huge waves, drowning the pair of Shinigami and Zanpakuto together. Clang! After one cut, Lan Yan put the Zanpakuto in his hand back into the scabbard. Seems to be telling everyone. Ring River, Muramasa. This combination that made Gote 13's face change, and Mao 46's room was extremely fearful, and he was only worthy of one knife, no more. Pata. As the pillars of dust soaring into the sky spread out, a bottomless gully appeared in this vast place of execution. It was cut open by him with a knife and split into two halves. Ring. River. Suddenly, a voice as fine as dust sounded. Source. The village is crawling on the edge of the ravine, and there is also a huge crack in the body, which almost cuts his whole body in half from the middle. Behind him, Shanghi half kneeled on the ground, a hideous knife edge extending from the edge of his neck to his abdomen, and blood flowed out of the wound like a swift river. It can be seen that if Muramasa hadn't risked his life to block it, the head and neck would have been cut off with this knife. Even if he survived by luck, his injuries were still serious enough to be fatal. Unless Unohana Yakiryu was rescued in time, or Inoue Orihime was born hundreds of years earlier to treat him, otherwise. A dead end. Alive. I was going to cut you in half with one knife, but it seems that the cut is too shallow. Xiaohei, you make it difficult for me. I promised to kill you, but you came here instead. Lan Yan looked around and saw that Kunjang was dying in a pool of blood, and Kuchiki Shang was kneeling on the ground, lingering on his last breath. He said it was difficult, but slowly raised his right hand, and the terrifying Reiatsu spread slowly. You can't kill me. Shang he thought that Lan Yan would draw his sword again, but his voice suddenly became hurried, revealing a bit of tension. He has not yet become the captain of the court guard, he has not yet ruled the Soul Society. How can he bear everything as a sinner and become the stepping stone for the Lan Yan brothers to reach the top? That's funny what you said. Why can't I kill you? Lan Yan couldn't help being amused by Shang He's words. Didn't you boast in front of Yamamoto Genryusai that you would capture me alive and hand me over to Seraiti? Shouldn't this be a hallucination of Kyoka Suigetsu? If you kill me now, you will break your promise. Unwilling to be born here in such a useless manner, he racked his brains. Also, you also know the reason why Kuchiki Yinling recruited me as his son-in-law. If you kill me now, waiting CEDJ is equivalent to breaking the plan of the Kuchiki family. This is the head of the four nobles of the Soul Society, and its background is far beyond your imagination. Leave me here, I can bear everything for you, and even become your subordinate. You have seen the power of Muramasa. Although it is useless to you, it is an absolute nemesis to other captains. Just laying out a lot of plans for the Lan Yan brothers, concealing Kyoka Suigetsu, and trying to complete Hypnosis Gote 13 Ring River, you know that these two brothers will never be willing to succumb to others. Whether it's Yamamoto Genryusai, Mao's 46 Room, or even the legendary Zero Division and Soul King. Thank you very much for being so thoughtful about our two brothers, but don't worry. Today, even though you die, the name, Shang, will never disappear. Someone will use your identity to replace you and continue to live until the Shang scripture has no value for existence. When Lan Yan was speaking, a figure slowly walked out of the distant forest. You are Tusen Kanami from Spiritual Arts Academy. Shang He's eyes widened, and he instantly recognized the person who came. Because Byakuya Kuchiki was enrolled in the first class of Spiritual Arts Academy, he also knew the names of the students in it very clearly. In addition, the person who came here had a festival with the four nobles of the Surudai family. So, he recognized Tusen Kanami's identity at a glance. Lord Lan Yan, Lord Aizen. Tusen Kanami ignored Shang He who was full of astonishment, but walked up to Brother Lan Yan and bowed in front of Brother Lan Yan. So that's the case, no wonder. Kyoka Suigetsu's complete hypnosis, there must be a hypnosis ceremony, that is, it can be seen with the naked eye. Tusen Kanami is blind, no matter how powerful hypnosis is, he can't see it, and he is also a student in the same class as you brothers. In order to facilitate the use of Kyoka Suigetsu, and not leak the news, Tusen Kanami will either become a corpse, or they will become your subordinates. Speaking of this, He's blood-stained face gradually became desperate. Because he understood Lan Yan's words, there is Kyoka Suigetsu's complete hypnosis, and Tusen Kanami can completely replace his name. As for why he did this, he suddenly thought of a sentence that Lan Yan said. Kuchiki Yinling once sent someone to attack the two. Etc. A thought suddenly came to mind, and the fog that shrouded my heart gradually dissipated. The next target is the Kuchiki Silver Bell. And then there's the Kuchikis. No, it shouldn't be correct. Shang He murmured, a moment of bewilderment flashed across his eyes, but more bewilderment followed. He didn't understand how to deal with the Kuchiki family after Lan Yan killed him, and he didn't understand, Brother Lan Yan, how could he have the confidence to deal with the Kuchiki family, the head of the four nobles? He even faintly sensed that the Lan Yan brothers were not at Kuchiki's house, and that they were plotting more things. Don't underestimate the Kuchiki Yinling, let alone the Kuchiki family. Why do you think the Kuchiki family can replace the Tsunayashiro family as the head of the Soul Society nobles? Kill me, you will definitely regret it. Seeing the three of Lan Yan approaching, Shang He didn't care about thinking, and hurriedly stated the strength of the Kuchiki family, trying to make the Lan Yan brothers change their minds. It's okay, you'll help us, won't you? Lan Yan walked in front of Shang, the corner of his mouth curled up. Yes, I will help you. Whether it's dealing with Kuchiki Silver Bell, or dealing with the Kuchiki family. When Shang He heard this, he thought that Lan Yan was persuaded by him, so he changed his original intention and planned to keep him alive. He was overjoyed at the same time, and at the same time secretly gritted his teeth. Really? Then please do me a favor now and one last time. Lan Yan didn't seem to notice Shang He's sinister intentions, and said to himself. No problem. Hearing the words, Shang He didn't ask any further questions, as long as he was alive anyway. After all, you can only help Lan Yan if you are alive, right? Puff. There was a sound of sharp blades piercing through the body. Shang He's eyes widened, looking at the Zanpakuto that pierced through his heart. His eyes moved along the body of the saber, and finally landed on Lan Shang holding the saber. 4. Why? His face was full of astonishment and unwillingness, and he spoke with difficulty. Do me a favor. Didn't you already agree? This is what you promised yourself. You don't want to go back on your word, do you? Finished. Lan Yan stretched out his hand and pulled out the Zanpakuto that pierced Shang Hei's heart. The blood dripped down the blade, and there was no trace of blood on the blade. Lan Yan. You. Shang Hei's bloodshot eyes burst out with strong venom and despair, but they were immediately covered by deathly ashes, and quickly lost all spirit, and were completely buried under Lan Yan's knife. It's so pitiful, thinking that with the help of the Kuchiki family, you can complete the class transition, but you forgot that it is not the power of the Kuchiki family that can make you complete the transition, but your own Shinigami power. And Muramasa. Aizen first glanced at Hibiki, who was gradually losing Reiatsu, and then swept over Muramasa. A very peculiar Zanpakuto. Even though the Shinigami is dead, he is still alive as a Zanpakuto. It's a pity you followed the wrong Shinigami. Seeing the faint Reiatsu on Muramasa's body, Aizen couldn't help being surprised and regretful. In his opinion, if a Zanpakuto like Muramasa does not fall into Hibiki's hands, but let others get it, he will definitely not stop at this height. Not to mention him, even if Kiraku Shunsui got it, the height he reached was far from what Shang could reach. Looks like you appreciate this knife, Aizen. Lan Yan noticed the change in King Bai's eyes, and he knew it. Do you like it? It should be said that it is a pity. Illusion Zanpakuto is rare in Soul Society. Kyoka Suigetsu doesn't come out. Muramasa is king. If my Zanpakuto Kyoka Suigetsu is the strongest in the illusion department, then Muramasa is the second in the illusion department. The sword is a good sword, but Shinigami is not a good Shinigami. Aizen corrected. If it were you, what height would you bring this knife to? Lan Yan asked with interest after hearing the words. Aizen didn't speak, but raised his head slightly, and glanced at the sky above Soul Society. The meaning is self-evident. Throne of Heaven. Aizen, do you remember what day it is? Lan Yan saw it, understood it, and then changed the subject. Your birthday. When hearing the birthday, Aizen's face and eyes didn't change at all. It was obvious that he didn't care about the date, or even remember it in his heart. You can forget it, or don't care, but I can't. Who made me your brother? It can't be my brother's birthday, and I don't have any preparations. As Lan Yan said, he held a knife straight to the dying Muramasa, who was still staring at him with resentful eyes. Do you know why I choose Shang? Know why I chose to do it today? Not at the right time, because they're my birthday present for you. The voice just fell. On Zanpakuto, a black mist that could absorb even light rose up and spread out. Dark clothes. In a blink of an eye, the billowing black mist spread out and turned into a black mist curtain, covering Morozhang and Shang together. After a while, the curtain of black mist slowly lifted into the sky, and Hibiki's body lay on the ground intact, but Muramasa had disappeared, replaced by a Zanpakuto shrouded in deep black mist. Clang! Lan Yan inserted the candle shade back into the scabbard, and then waved his hand, and Zanpakuto, emitting a thick black mist, immediately lifted into the air and floated all the way to Aizen. It was really unexpected. Dark Candle Yin actually possesses the ability to capture Shinigami's Zanpakuto. Aizen looked at Zanpakuto floating in front of him, his eyes under the frame mirror suddenly tightened. Who is he? Shinigami is the first to force the king. Wisdom is so high that only Urahara Kazuki can compare with it. Just listening to what Lan Yan said just now, without even looking at the scene in front of him, he already understood what was going on. Your village official has been delivered, please sign for it. After Lan Yan had a panoramic view of Bai Wang's expression changes, the corners of his lips raised slightly, as if he was satisfied with the shocked look of the other party. This is not pretending, but really shocked. After all, it is. Capture Shinigami's Zanpakuto. This kind of ability has never been seen in the history of Soul Society. Why not keep it for yourself? Zanpakuto that can hypnosis other Shinigami. Such ability should also be useful to you. Aizen didn't reach out to pick it up, but asked Lan Yan. Didn't you say it? This is your birthday present. How can an elder brother grab a birthday present from his younger brother? Lan Yan shook his head. Not to mention Muramasa, this is his birthday gift specially prepared for Aizen. Let's talk about his Zanpakuto. Just the dark type candle yin has the ability to seal, and Zanpakuto to capture other Shinigami. In addition, there are other abilities, and Muramasa's ability to dominate other Zanpakuto through hypnosis can only be called icing on the cake for him at best. On the contrary, the Zanpakuto of the hallucination type can only be played to the ultimate if it falls into the hands of Shinigami with a high IQ like Aizen and Urahara Kazuki, who are strategizing and winning thousands of miles. Shanghe, lying at his feet, has already proved with his own death that if his ability is not enough, how low is the achievement of controlling Muramasa, and how tragic the end will be. And his own Zanpakuto is too arrogant. It is not that he is not allowed to capture Zanpakuto, but the premise is to capture those Zanpakuto who hold the strongest name. Such as Hirenmaru, such as Ryujin Jaka, or Kyoka Suigetsu of Aizen. In Zuin's words, it means that someone who is not the strongest Zanpakuto of a certain department is not qualified to enter her spiritual space. Looking at Muramasa just now, she was directly blasted out of the spiritual space, not the seal. After hearing this, Aizen didn't speak, but his eyes flickered slightly. It can be seen that he, who has always been in front of the Taishan collapse and remains unchanged, is quite violently fluctuating in his heart at this moment. Take it, Zanpakuto, the second in the illusion department, is definitely more than this level. It's just that Shanghe's ability as a Shinigami is too hip, and he can't bring out Muramasa's true ability at all. It can only be used for Zanpakuto of other Shinigami in hypnosis. Whether the Shikai or the Bankai he displayed will not be Muramasa's ultimate. Entrusting it to you is the only value of this knife. Lan Yan reached out and grabbed Zanpakuto, who was wrapped in black mist, and pressed it directly into Aizen's arms. Facts have also proved that Aizen is really suitable for using the illusion system Zanpakuto, and it can be used without relying on it. Otherwise, even if there is no moon in the mouth, if the king wants to win, he can use Kyoka Suigetsu's Shikai to play the opponent in the palm of his hand, let alone Bankai. Aizen took a deep look at Lan Yan. Of course he knew that his brother said so much just to let him accept Muramasa with peace of mind. Thinking of this, he stretched out his hand to hold Muramasa, who was wrapped in black mist, without saying a word. Chi. As Aizen grasped the handle with 5 fingers, the black mist that permeated the blade dissipated immediately, and then Zanpakuto seemed to be washed away, returning to the nascent posture without the master's control. It becomes a sealed state, but it is a hit that hosts the power of the second Zanpakuto of the illusion department. No memory. There is no past, only pure power. When he writes the essence of his soul into it, he will create his own second Zanpakuto. Is this the ability of Candle Yin to take Shinigami Zanpakuto? By beheading Shinigami, cut off the soul bond between Shinigami and Zanpakuto, and then use the power of the dark candle to erase everything and reshape the sealed state. Finally, with the help of the new master, write the essence of the soul into the sealed state, thus becoming the master of Zanpakuto. The moment Aizen got his hands on Muramasa, through careful perception of the whole process of capturing Muramasa, he immediately analyzed the mystery of the ability of Dark Candle Yin to capture Shinigami Zanpakuto. This also made him marvel at Lan Yan's strength. Zanpakuto is created by the essence of the master's soul. In other words, everything about Candle Yin comes from Lan Yan's soul, including the strongest Zanpakuto in the light and dark system, and the power of Zanpakuto also comes from Lan Yan himself. Boom! With Aizen's hand holding the knife slightly, Reiatsu continued to pour into it, and suddenly the village in his hand exploded, like stardust, forming a storm of stars, enveloping his whole body, and then, whole body. It looks like the capture is complete. Lan Yan watched this scene with interest. It is the first time he has used the ability to take Zanpakuto from others, and it is also the first time he has used the ability to give others Zanpakuto. Naturally, I have not seen the whole process. After a while, the Reiatsu stardust surrounding Aizen dissipated. How about it? Seeing this, Lan Yan immediately asked. Kyoka Suigetsu. he pressed the newborn Muramasa to the ground and beat him up. After that, Muramasa refused to accept it. He was beaten again, but he still refused to accept it. Hearing this, Aizen's expression suddenly became a little subtle and weird. Obviously, he saw in his spiritual world, 2 Zanpakuto in PK. Ha 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 ha, it's normal. What kind of Shinigami, what kind of Zanpakuto is created? Shang is arrogant on the outside, but inferior on the inside, eager to be superior, and let the Shinigami nobles obey him, so he created Zanpakuto Muramasa, Zanpakuto who owns Hypnosis Shinigami, and his character is also obedient to him. Lan Yan couldn't help laughing when he heard this. As for you, you were born at the bottom of the earth, but you don't believe in fate, your heart is higher than the sky, and you look down on Shinigami, so Kyoka Suigetsu was born, with the same personality as you, only accepting submission and following, not equals. After Muramasa was restored to the factory settings by me, I rewritten the essence of the soul through you. Let alone the ability, but the personality must have changed. It has changed to follow you and not succumb to Kyoka Suigetsu, even if it is the strongest in the illusion department. Quote. But it doesn't matter. From now on, there will be no illusion type strongest and second. Kyoka Suigetsu and Muramasa, the 2 knives are one with each other. Only the name is different, and there is no distinction between high and low. They are both the strongest illusion type dual swords. After learning about the current situation of Kyoka Suigetsu and Muramasa, he said with a sense of enlightenment. Both Kyoka Suigetsu and Muramasa are shaped by the soul essence of Aizen. They are 2 swords in one body, just like Kurosaki Ichigo's body. White Ichigo and Uncle Zangetsu are both individuals in a whole. Kyoka Suigetsu is in my hands, he is the strongest. The village is in my hands, and he is also the strongest. Illusion is a double sword, it is indeed a whole. After hearing this, Aizen nodded in agreement. Both knives are his Zanpakuto, both of which are his strength. They are a whole, and there is no strongest or second point. If you have to say it, both knives are the strongest. Just like short sword Zangetsu and long sword Zangetsu, they are the strongest when they are integrated with each other. Master Aizen, please forgive me for offending you. Would I have the honor to have a glimpse of your interpretation of Zanpakuto? At this time, Tusen Kanami couldn't hold back the shock in his heart anymore, and couldn't help asking. Although he couldn't see, Reiatsu's perception was extremely keen. In addition, Brother Lan Yan's dialogue did not deliberately hide from him at all, so he naturally knew what happened just now. Lan Yan captured Hibiki's Muramasa and gave Aizen a second Zanpakuto. Aizen wrote the soul essence into Muramasa, and got a pair of the strongest double swords of the illusion system. The strength of his brother made him feel hopeless. The younger brother's growth made him feel horrified. At the same time, he also wants to witness how powerful the Zanpakuto Shikai, the double Zanpakuto Shikai created by the Lan Yan brothers and created by the Soul Society, is unprecedented. Yes, of course. Aizen looked at Tusen Kanami with a gentle smile on his face, but the next move made people shudder. Tongtian shattering, Kyoka Suigetsu, whispering, Demon Sword Muramasa. Accompanied by Jifengyu and Zanpakuto's Shikai name, shouted by Aizen together, billowing Reiatsu spread out from the whole body in an instant. In an instant, it turned into a huge beam of Reiatsu light, straight into the sky. Bathed in the soaring beam of light, the Zanpakuto on his waist gradually disappeared, replaced by Zanpakuto of different shapes, appearing on the left and right palms respectively. After Shikai, Kyoka Suigetsu hasn't changed much, the handle is still light green and the blade has a curved blade. However, the shape of Yaodao Muramasa has changed drastically, the handle of the knife has turned into light purple, and the blade has a straight cut. It was completely different from when it was in Shanghai's hands. Yes, what do you think? Aizen holds 2 swords, the left hand Demon Sword Muramasa, the right hand Kyoka Suigetsu, looking at Tusen Kanami. If I say that Lord Aizen gave me horror before, then it can only be described as horror now. Tusen Kanami felt the Reiatsu emanating from Aizen, and felt as if his body and mind had fallen into a horrible bottomless abyss, falling into it, and he could no longer climb out of it. Immediately afterwards, he couldn't help but look at Lan Yan to the side. Faced with this, the man who single-handedly pushed Aizen to a more terrifying realm. It is obvious that there is no Reiatsu on the opponent, and it will not bring him the slightest oppression physically, but it will give him a kind of despair that is better than terror. It was a kind of despair that didn't even have the courage to hold a knife when facing Lan Yan. But Tusen Kanami didn't know that when Aizen was talking to him, a horrible thing happened quietly. At this time, while talking to him, Aizen quietly walked into his mental space. This is also the ability possessed after liberating the double swords of the illusion system. Unscrupulous and silent access to any Shinigami's mental space. Aizen glanced at the Zanpakuto Suzumushi who lived in Tusen Kanami's spiritual world in front of him, said nothing, then turned and left. But behind the scenes, Zanpakuto Suzumushi, belonging to Tusen Kanami, made a creepy move. Suzumushi turned towards Aizen's leaving back and knelt down slowly, like a courtier sending the emperor away. People who don't know will only think that this Suzumushi is Aizen's Zanpakuto, but they will never think that the other party is Tusen Kanami's Zanpakuto. Just a glance, silently broke into Tusen Kanami's spiritual space, and glanced at the other party's Zanpakuto hypnosis, and Tusen Kanami himself was still ignorant of the whole process. As if this is Aizen's spiritual space, Suzumushi is Aizen's Zanpakuto. This is forcing the king. Same Zanpakuto. The same as the hallucination system Muramasa. But in the hands of Aizen and in the hands of Shang, Muramasa is completely two swords. The sense of oppression is not the same at all. Sure enough, if Shinigami is strong, Zanpakuto is strong. Zanpakuto of the hallucination system can only be played to ultimate in the hands of the king. In the final analysis, Hibiki's Shinigami has limited ability, and can only create Muramasa to the second place in the illusion system, but in the hands of Aizen, after rewriting his soul essence, Muramasa immediately obtained evolution on the original basis. Not only the Jifeng language has changed, but the Shikai name is also different. The same goes for Kyoka Suigetsu. After incorporating the power of the brand new demon sword Muramasa, he has also been improved. Although the Shikai name has not changed, the liberation language has changed. Tusen Kanami didn't know about Suzumushi's change, but Lan Yan sneaked the king into the local spiritual space, took a look at Hypnosis Suzumushi, and helped him change his master. This can't help but make him sigh. In the world of Shinigami, as expected, the main focus is a mixed race. Regardless of whether it is Zanpakuto or Shinigami, the more mixed, the more powerful and limitless it is. It's like Yijigu, who obviously only has one parent, but has Zubai, Quincy, Shinigami, and full manifestation. 8 gates have various abilities, and a lot of bloodlines. This is not. Aizen is just Kyoka Suigetsu mixed demon sword Muramasa, and 24 is not mixed with power other than Shinigami, and his strength immediately improved by leaps and bounds. Not only has it become a hallucinatory double sword, its ability has been greatly enhanced, and after Shikai, Reiatsu is also better than before. Yes, it's time for you to come out. Maybe I have to feel wrong. Suffer a little bit, okay. After taking Suzumushi hypnosis for a small test, Aizen smiled slightly and asked in a gentle but irresistible tone. Yes, Aizen scale. I don't feel wronged, on the contrary, I can't wait. Because, it is my honor to be able to personally participate in the action to destroy the source of corruption of the Soul Society. When Tusen Kanami heard it, he immediately knelt down, his tone extremely excited. At this time, he is completely immersed in the joy of avenging his old friends and overthrowing the nobles and systems of the Soul Society step by step. He has no idea that his Zanpakuto Suzumushi has been hypnosis and has become a plaything in the hands of his loyal Aizen, let alone Suzumushi who is loyal to him. It has already changed hands, and it may become the butcher knife to end him at any time. Puff. When Aizen heard this, the smile on the corner of his mouth grew stronger. He reached out and pressed Tusen Kanami's forehead lightly, and the round pressure burst out. Pata. Tusen Kanami only felt that his consciousness became extremely drowsy, and then he fell limply at Brother Lan Yan's feet. Brother, your candle yin is also a pair of swords that kill the soul. After wiping out Tusen Kanami's consciousness with gestures, Aizen asked suddenly, but his tone was full of affirmation. Yes, she has both light and dark sides, but usually likes to be one with each other. So, it can be Zanpakuto, where light and darkness are integrated, or Zanpakuto, where light and darkness are separated. Lan Yan saw that the king had seen it, so he no longer concealed it, but pulled out the Zanpakuto in front of him, and did not call out the name of Shikai or the word of liberation. Knife. A whole body is golden, shaped like a light blade, exuding boundless sharpness. Even if it shakes slightly, it will cut open the air near the blade, making people shudder. A whole body is pitch black, like a black knife, exuding a terrifying attraction, just hanging in the air. Any light passing nearby will be involved, and it is difficult to escape. Light and dark is one, light and dark swords, and it's just Shikai. What an amazing power. Brother, this is why you have worked so hard to capture the village and give it to me. You also considered that my character might not accept it, so you specially gave it as a birthday present. Aizen glanced at Guang Yin Zuin, first praised him, and then changed the topic. You hold 2 swords, and they are the strongest in both light and dark systems, while I only have a Kyoka Suigetsu of the illusion system. Are you jealous? No, my size is not limited to this level, not to mention there is no younger brother who is jealous and hates everything. So, in order to take care of my feelings, you don't have to deliberately hide your strength too much, and even go around a big circle to send me Muramasa. He looked up into Lan Yan's eyes. You think too much. My elder brother just gave my younger brother a birthday present, so there are so many twists and turns. By the way, the knife is not bad, is it? Lan Yan's eyes fluctuated slightly upon hearing this, but disappeared immediately. When he just crossed over, he hadn't discovered the ability to practice on his own, or in other words, he still mastered Zanpakudo, Reiatsu, and Zonquan Zugi, so he didn't even have the ability, so naturally he couldn't practice. In the chaotic Area 80, there is only mutual support with Aizen. It is precisely because of the time when we met at the end of my life that I know that King Bai seems to behave elegantly, kindly and politely, but in fact he is cruel, ambitious, and ruthless, but I still treat him as my younger brother. Anyway, he himself is a time traveler, and he has no sense of belonging to Soul Society and Seraiti, Shinigami and Quincy, or even everything in this world. Whether it replaces the Spirit King or overthrows Seraiti, even if Aizen wants to turn the 3 realms upside down, he doesn't care. Not bad. After accepting the essence of my soul, Muramasa's Jifeng language and Shikai name have changed, and Zanpakudo has also evolved. It's a good thing. Aizen nodded, telling the change of Yaodao Muramasa, and also recognized his strength. Something bad. Lan Yan heard the implication of King Bai's words. The bad thing is that it is easy to become dependent on his power. Whether it is Kyoka Suigetsu or Muramasa, they are one with each other. After Shikai and Bankai have evolved, they can easily become their vassals. Just like Shang, leaving Muramasa is nothing. Aizen didn't hide it either, and told L that he didn't like to rely on Zanpakudo. Aizen, your thinking is a bit extreme. Zanpakudo is the product of your soul essence, he is the extension of your soul, just like your hands and feet are the extension of your torso. Is it possible to cut off his brain? As for what you said about not relying on Zanpakudo, that's a good thing. Shinigami shouldn't just focus on Zanpakudo, Reiatsu, Kido, Kendo, Shunpo and white hits, each of which should not be pulled. Just like the heart, liver, spleen, lungs, kidneys and brain, both are indispensable. Quote. Lan Yan knew it in his heart. No wonder you have Kyoka Suigetsu, but you rarely use it, especially when you get Hogyoku. Every time you gain soul and strength, you use Kyoka Suigetsu less frequently and less often. At first it was to put himself in danger and force Hogyoku to help him evolve, but later even Kyoka Suigetsu was smashed with one hand. Feelings Aizen has had such signs since then. At this time, he was a little puzzled. The Shinigami of Zanpakudo's Zanpakudo, who plays with the illusion of emotion, has such unique ideas. I just like to have nothing to do, break off my Zanpakudo to play. Kuchiki Hibiki was like this. The first thing he did after getting out of trouble was to cut off Muramasa. The same goes for Aizen Sosuke. After evolving, the first thing he does is smash Kyoka Suigetsu. Zanpakudo is an extension of the soul. The hands and feet are extensions of the torso. Is that so? Hearing what Lan Yan said, Aizen murmured, and the eyes under the frame mirror flashed a bright light from time to time. Let's go. I just showed my hand in front of the first team and all the guard captains. If you don't go back, they will be suspicious. Lan Yan patted Baiwang on the shoulder, and raised Tusen Kanami who replaced Shang, and Shunpo disappeared. Brother, you said I was thinking too much, but aren't you also Gu Tianduo? Even if I wanted to stand at the top, I didn't forget a thing. I will always be your brother. Watching Lan Yan's leaving figure, Aizen thought silently. Laugh. Turning his mind, Kyoka Suigetsu and Yaodakyun in their hands were exiting the Shikai state at the same time, turning back to the single sword when they were not liberated, and then he inserted it back into the scabbard. After doing all this, he erased all traces left in this place that might be exposed, and then removed the Kido enchantment that had just been quietly set up, and then Shunpo dodged and chased after Lan Yan. He didn't forget that Unohana Yakiryu was using Kaido against a cloud of air. Although after being hit by Kyoka Suigetsu's complete hypnosis, everything captured by the other party's 5 senses will be as he imagined, but Aizen is very clear that Unohana Yakiryu is different from ordinary Shinigami. Whether it is vision or wisdom. After all, he was not at the scene, and if he left for too long, mistakes would inevitably occur. A team. At this time, under the command of Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni, the aftermath work has been completed in 7s and 80s. The guard captain Zanpakuto's rebellion, the riots caused, and the damage caused have basically been restored to their original appearance. However, the guard captain and vice captains still did not disband, but waited in the meeting hall, waiting for Lan Yan's turn. It was not Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni's mandatory request, but the Gote captain and deputy captains stayed in the starting lineup. This was also in return for his single-handed suppression of the Zanpakuto rebellion. A total of 12 captains and 13 deputy captains, not a few of them, stood neatly in place and waited. He is back. Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni's slightly narrowed eyes opened suddenly. The other captains and vice captains also looked towards the gate of the meeting hall at the same time. Soon, Lan Yan was holding Shang, and caught their eyes, and then everyone greeted him, and walked in unhurriedly. Sure enough, have you been captured? Kuchiki Yinling's gaze immediately fell on the Ring River that Lan Yan was carrying. The Reiatsu sense was released, and after realizing that there was still a weak Reiatsu on Shang, he let out a sigh of relief. As long as you don't die, it's not a big loss. It's just that the village can't keep it, but at least it can get the fragment of the Spirit King in Shanghai's body. As for whether Shang will be executed, he is not worried at all. As the Kuchiki Patriarch, I still have some energy. Muramasa, who can hypnosis everything Zanpakuto, and the genius Shinigami Hibiki. Can such a combination not even leave a mark on Lan Yan? Even Captain Haori didn't show any signs of damage. It's as strong as a monster. Hieraku Shunsui and Jashiro Yukitaki were not surprised to see Lan Yan captured Hibiki and returned alive. What moved them was that Muramasa and Hibiki were unable to leave any trace of Lan Yan. While counting the time back and forth, various battle scenes involuntarily appeared in their minds. Kido crushed, Kendo crushing, Shunpo crushed. White hits crush, Reiatsu rolling, Zanpakuto rolling. No matter which captain's mind comes to mind, it is Lan Yan crushing Shang. The difference is only in what kind of Shinigami ability is used to crush it. There are 2 types of geniuses in Soul Society, one is called Lan Yan, and the other is called Other Geniuses. Shiba looked at Lan Yan wholeheartedly, and then at Shang, who was brought in like a dead dog, and couldn't help sighing. Soul Society's history is so long that it is almost impossible to measure. During this period, there are so many powerful Shinigami that have been born, even the Shinigami who are known as geniuses are as numerous as the sands of the Ganges River. Even if it is Yamamoto Genryusai, it is just the strongest of these thousands. If we continue to push back, there are still more strongest Shinigami like Yamamoto Genryusai. But now, Shiba Yixin blatantly said in front of the captains and vice captains that there are only 2 types of geniuses. One is Lan Yan and one is Other Geniuses. It is conceivable how lofty and terrifying his evaluation is. As expected, as soon as Shiba's involuntary exclamation spread, the faces of all the captains present changed suddenly, and the vice captains were in an uproar, because such an evaluation was too shocking, but when they set their sights on Lan Yan, but invariably remained silent. Yamamoto Yuan Yanasai Shigekuni is so. Soon, Shutara Senjumaru, who will be promoted to Team Zero, and Hikafuna Kiryu. The same is true for first-generation Kenpachi, Unohana Yakiryu. Other captains, of course, are no exception. They consider themselves well-educated people, and they have dabbled in the history of Soul Society, but going back to the beginning of Seraites' establishment, they couldn't find a Shinigami who could match Lan Yan's talent in terms of talent. Teacher Yixin, quote, Don't think that wearing a top hat will save you a meal. I helped you suppress Angetsu, and you have to leave something behind whatever you say tonight. Seeing this, Lan Yan casually put Shang and his Zanpakuto on the ground, and then broke the silence of the conference hall with a chuckle. I knew that you wouldn't let me go back so easily. No problem, I will pay for tonight's consumption. By the way, I have some good news for you. Aizen is fine. The knife didn't hurt his vitals. He will recover in a week or so. Shiba smiled wholeheartedly, then waved his hand and paid the bill for tonight. Quan of Lihao didn't notice that the injured Aizen he mentioned was standing beside Lan Yan at the moment, looking at him with great interest, his eyes full of amusement. Silence. Captain Lan Yan, thank you for putting down the chaos this time. Seraiti will not treat meritorious persons badly. Put down the Zanpakuto rebellion, capture the sinner Shang alive. I will report to Central 46, and rewards will be issued later. Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni also suppressed the wonder and thought in his heart, and then spoke, but when his eyes swept across Shang, his gloomy expression was undisguised, causing the temperature of the entire meeting hall to drop. As for sinners ringing the river. Speaking of this, Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni's voice paused slightly, as if he was thinking about something, and he seemed to be waiting for something. What an old fox Kuchiki Yinling is. Seeing Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni's voice paused slightly, he immediately understood, and immediately stood out from the 2 rows of guard captains. Your Excellency Captain, although the criminal Shang has been deprived of Kuchiki's surname and expelled from the Kuchiki clan, he was once a member of the Kuchiki family and his son-in-law. Shocking the Shinigami, I beg your Excellency, Commander, to execute Kuchiki Hibiki to death. Kuchiki's family has such sinners. As the head of the family, I can hardly shirk the blame. It is not appropriate to be the captain of the 6th team and lead the 6th team. Please allow me to resign as the captain of the 6th division, and go home to meditate on my past. But in a few words, Kuchiki Yinling completely dismantled the rebellion of the Ring River and the Kuchiki family, and he accepted the punishment in advance before Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni pronounced his guilt. Shang was executed. He resigned as the captain of the 6th division. Return to Kuchiki's home to reflect on your past. Those who can admit it will be admitted, and those who can be punished will be punished. You can't give the entire Kuchiki family a rundown just because of a Shinigami who once entered the Kuchiki family, right? Seraiti did not even sit on this charge. Except for the Shiba clan. No wonder the Kuchiki family can replace Tsunayashiro as the head of the nobility. Everyone in the world thinks that it all depends on Shang and Muramasa. Actually, it's because of the Kuchiki silver bell. Lan Yan admired Kuchiki Yinling's method and knew it in his heart. Past. The head of the 4 nobles, owned by the Tsunayashiro family. Can now. Kuchiki replaced Tsunayayo instead. Many nobles, even the Shinigami of Gote 13, felt that thanks to Kuchiki's silver bell ringing he as his son-in-law, he obtained a Muramasa who could deter all Shinigami Zanpakuto, so he took home the title of the head of the nobles. But in his view, Hibiki and Muramasa are essential factors, but Kuchiki Yinling is the most critical one. Whether it is the death of the married son-in-law Kuchiki Hibiki or the death of the next head of the family Byakuya Kuchiki, as long as Kuchiki's silver bell is still alive, Tsunayashiro will not be able to regain the title of the head of the nobility. Although Shang is guilty, and it is a crime of rebellion, but the crime is not as good as my son. As for the position of the captain of the 6th division, for the time being, it will be assigned to Captain Yinling. After I find a more suitable candidate, I will make another change. As for sinners ringing the river, Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni glanced at Kuchiki's silver bell, seeing the other parties wink and knowing the current affairs, he picked it up high and put it down gently. It seems to be punished, but in fact nothing is punished. Even if there is a more suitable candidate, it will be the next head of the Kuchiki family. Regarding this, the guard captains present were also well aware of this, but they also knew that this was already the limit. If it hadn't been for Shang to move their Zanpakuto, Kuchiki Yinling would not even need to step down as the captain of the 6th division. This is just an explanation to them. After all, Kuchiki Yinling and the other captains, besides being the captain of the 6th division, are also the patriarchs of the Kuchiki family, the head of the nobility. According to the law of Seraiti, the old man decided to put him in a blood burial and seal him for 3,000 years. Original. To judge a noble who used to be the Kuchiki family, you need to report to Central 46 first, and then wait for the judges and sages to make a judgment. But the premise is when Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni is happy. If he is in a good mood, he will listen to the judgment of Central 46. If he is not happy, then let the real 46 room listen to his judgment. Apparently, Shanghe was not happy with the riots that had caused the Zanpakuto rebellion before, so Central 46 could only listen to his judgment. It's over. Hieraku Shunsui shook his head secretly. A genius Shinigami who was brilliant not so long ago, unexpectedly just like himself. 3,000 years. Jashiro Yukitaki sighed inwardly. The captains and vice-captains here all know that Kuchiki Shanghe's life is over. It seems that they don't need to be executed, but they are actually buried in blood, which is more desperate than death. Limbs could not move, imprisoned in darkness for life. Until old age and death. That's 3,000 years. Not every Shinigami lives that long. Unless you are a member of the Zero Division, the lifespan of a normal Shinigami is basically proportional to that of a Reiatsu. But once placed in a blood burial, Shinigami's Reiatsu will not be able to gain any promotion in the years to come. Not every Shinigami can be like Aizen, who is obviously imprisoned in the most terrifying, infernal space, facing a dilemma of life and death, but Reiatsu is still improving every day inexplicably. After being buried in blood for 3,000 years, all that remains is Shanghe's body. Hey. When Kuchiki Yinling heard this, she felt a little depressed. After all, she was her son-in-law who had known each other for more than 50 years, but she immediately breathed a sigh of relief. This wave is stable, CEDJ. Hibiki was not executed, which is also a privilege brought by the surname of the Kuchiki family, even though he has taken back Hibiki's Kuchiki surname. As for the blood burial, sealed in a place that no one knows, and his limbs cannot move, wouldn't it be more convenient for him to extract the spirit fragments in Shanghe's body? This is the Kuchiki Silver Bell. A Shinigami nobleman who led the Kuchiki family and replaced the head of the noble family, Tsunayashiro. Today's meeting ends here. Captains, please go back. Captain Lan Yan stays. After the Hibiki rebellion, the Zanpakuto unrest caused by the village, the aftermath of the aftermath, the verdict of the verdict, after all the dust settled, Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni announced the adjournment, and only Lan Yan stayed. Seeing this with all his heart, Shiba gestured to him, indicating that he would go to the restaurant first to open a table. I'm sorry about Aizen's injury. Quote, the old man didn't think carefully. He didn't expect that Shanghe's ambition would be so low. As the son-in-law of the Kuchiki clan, he returned to the throne for the sake of being the captain of a special force, and he was jealous. Then he rebelled. If you want, I can promise you, I will transfer Aizen back to the 5th team now. Seeing the captain and deputy captain leaving one by one, even Shang was taken away by Xingjun, and only himself and Lan Yan were left in the huge conference hall. Yamamoto's tone became less dignified, a little more accommodating, and even apologized to Lan Yan for the first time. If you want to wear a crown, you must bear its weight. In the final analysis, this is also a problem of Aizen's own lack of strength and difficulty in being a great leader. Unless he is willing to live under my protection, otherwise, he will inevitably encounter more challenges similar to today's in the future. Principal, you don't have to worry about it. He chooses his own path. We can support him for a while, but we can't support him for a lifetime. Let him stay in the 1st team, stay with you, principal, and practice hard. Lan Yan ignored Wang Dynasty and forced him to give him a teasing smile, and continued to play on his own. You can think so, the old man is very pleased. Aizen really needs tempering. He can grow more by staying in the 1st team than staying in the 5th team. Don't worry, after he recovers from injury and returns to the team, the old man will personally teach him to cut fists and walk away ghosts, so that he can follow your pace as soon as possible, and have the strength to be the captain of the court guard. At that time, your brothers will be the captains of a double guard that Seraiti has never seen before. Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni felt a little relieved when he heard the words, and a smile appeared on his face. He was afraid that after experiencing Shanghe's backstab, Lan Yan would change his mind, dissatisfied with his lack of protection, and take away his precious disciple who had just arrived. After all, it was to protect Aizen that the opponent overthrew Hiriko Shinji from the position of captain of the 5th team. Seeing that Lan Yan did not take away Aizen's idea, Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni also felt relieved, and even made a promise of a double guard captain on the spot. As long as there is a vacancy in the position of the captain of the guard, as long as Aizen's strength matches the captain of the guard, he will definitely fill it. Captain Guard, if Aizen knows that you have such high expectations for him, the principal, he will probably be very happy. After all, he told me a lot that he wanted to become the captain of the court guard. Lan Yan saw Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni smiling so brightly, he glanced at Aizen, from the corner of his eye. It is indeed very happy to force the king. He could totally imagine it. Now, how happy is Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni? How much does he value Aizen? In the future, there is anger. How much does he want to kill Aizen? Yeah, Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni heard the news, and learned that Aizen actually regarded Captain Guti so seriously, and even pursued it as a goal in life, thus lashing himself to make continuous progress. While he was more happy in his heart, he also secretly decided. After Aizen returns to the team, he will pass on what he has learned all his life. The conversation with the two people was very happy, and the atmosphere was harmonious and different. The other side, in the office of the 9th Division of the Gote, even the air was filled with a strong smell of gunpowder. Just because Muguruma Kensai, Love Akawa, and Odoribashi Rojiro experienced the Hibiki Rebellion, and their Zanpakuto was suppressed by Lan Yan. After recovering, they questioned Hiriko Shinji's claim that the Lan Yan brothers are extremely dangerous people. Muguruma Kensai, in particular, bluntly told Hiriko Shinji to let go of his prejudices. This immediately made Hiriko Shinji, who had been depressed and extremely gloomy after losing the position of captain of the 5th team and all the glory overnight, completely exploded. Kenshi, what the hell is going on in your head? You say brother Lan Yu is a good person. Just because he helped you suppress Zanpakuto. Don't even think about it. Why Shang rebelled and became a sinner, it's not thanks to brother Aizen. In the meeting hall, Lan Yan not only caused him to lose the position of the captain of the special forces that he just got, but he couldn't even be the 3rd seed of the 6th team. He could only be reduced to an ordinary member of the 1st team, and Aizen, even stolen his position as the captain of the special forces. As soon as Hiriko Shinji slapped the table, his hair exploded on the spot. Although I don't know that Aizen's Zanpakuto is Kyoka Suigetsu, but after listening to Muguruma Kensai's narration of what happened in the chamber, my first reaction is that they are too similar. How he lost his position as the captain of the 5th Division, and how Shang lost his position as the captain of the Special Forces. It's exactly the same. Even, Shanghai's fate was more miserable than his Hiriko Shinji. Therefore, the Zanpakuto rebellion was obviously caused by Shang, but he was still sure that the Lan Yan brothers were behind it. You say it was done by brother Lan Yan, what about the evidence? Hiriko, I sympathize with what happened to you, but you can't be unreasonable, right? Even if you don't tell the truth, you have to tell the truth. At that time in the meeting hall, there were 6 of us, with 12 eyes. We saw that Shang first uttered bad words during Lan Yan's captain inauguration ceremony, and was punished by the captain to remove him from the post of special forces, and then he was appointed by the captain in Aizen. When the deputy captain of the 1st team and the captain of the special forces uttered wild words again, they were held accountable by the captain, and then became jealous because of jealousy. Muguruma Kensai suppressed his dissatisfaction and tried to persuade Hiriko to let go of his prejudice against the Lan Yan brothers. Kenshi is right, we all saw the situation at that time. You said that Shang lost everything thanks to brother Lan Yan, but what we saw was that Shang made a big fuss about the inauguration ceremony of the captain and vice captain of brother Lan Yan, and the 2 brothers didn't care about him. Even Aizen he also helped to speak well. Well, even if you were right, Hiriko, brother Lan Yan is behind the scenes, but it was Shanghai's provocation first, and the 2 positions of deputy captain of the 1st team and captain of the special forces are appointed by the captain himself, isn't it? Can their brothers still control the captain's will? Not only Muguruma Kensai, Odoribashi Rojiro and Love Akawa also felt that Hiriko Shinji was wrong about the Lan Yan brothers. Mistaking the good guys for the bad guys. He has been chasing and beating him indiscriminately. This, in short, don't you think that the experience of Shang Chen is too similar to mine? They all end up the same. Both of them are related to Lan Yan. Leaving the facts aside, isn't brother Lan Yan a bit of a problem? Hiriko Shinji subconsciously wanted to refute, but found himself unable to find a reason. Helpless, since the facts are not good for him, he can only use his trump card. After hearing this, Mugaruma Kensai, Kuna Mashiro, Yadomaru Lisa and others were all speechless for a while. Leaving aside the facts, if we don't talk about reason or facts, what else can we talk about? They looked at each other and saw the same meaning in each other's eyes. It's almost straight to the point that it's not all the reason why you and Shang took the initiative to provoke the Lanyan brothers. The other two brothers are practicing in the Spiritual Arts Academy well, but you, the captain of the court, ran over specially, insisting that Aizen is not a good person, forcing the other brother to protect the younger brother. You can only graduate early and make an appointment to fight with your court captain. The other brothers performed well at the inauguration ceremony of the captain and vice captain, but Shang jumped out again and again to make trouble, and finally hurt Aizen. To save Shanghai's life, Lanyan has a great spirit. Yes, in the eyes of these captains and vice captains, there is nothing wrong with the Lan Yu brothers whether they talk about facts or reason. How? You all think brother Lan Yan is a good person, but I, Hiriko, have a bad body. Does it mean this? Hiriko Shinji saw the change in everyone's eyes, which made him very angry. That's not what we mean, it's just that Hiriko, you and Hibiki can't just grab Aizen and bully each other. Hashigan made a weak comment. Aizen has already been stabbed, and he was rescued in the fourth team. Yadomaru Lisa followed suit. Why don't you just forget it, Hiriko? You can use another Shinigami to bully, don't always stare at Lan Yan's younger brother. Why? Kuna Mashiro speaks more directly. We are friends, the kind that can be bothered when things happen, but it doesn't mean that we can admit that you distorted the facts and helped you bully brother Lan Yan, not to mention that even if you want to bully, we will be together. The guy may not be able to beat Lan Pang. Otoribashi Rojiro felt that Hiriko Shinji was a little bewildered. Aizen is a good person, but you want to say that others are bad people. Shang has rebelled, but you say that the other party is a good person. If it weren't for the friendship of hundreds of years, it would have passed away long ago. As friends, you should trust me instead of doubting me. Hiriko Shinji was so excited that he reached out to slap the table, but Surugaki Hiyori, who had been silent all the time, hit his face with a slipper, and the whole person flew out and hit the wall. I believe in you, so when Spiritual Arts Academy knew it was wrong, I also helped you lure Shiba away. In the end, one of you and I couldn't be the captain, and the other couldn't be the vice team, but I didn't blame you at all, because I believe in you, and people make mistakes sometimes. Now, you fight and fight, make trouble and doubt, and it's time to stop, idiot. Surugaki Hiyori walked up to Hiriko Shinji with another slipper in his hand, and there was a pair of slippers that I would pull until you stopped. You don't believe me. Brother Lan Yan is really not a good person. Hiriko Shinji heard the words, looked at Surugaki Hiyori, then at Mugaruma Kensai, Love Akawa, Yadomaru Lisa and others, almost all of them had the same expression and the same eyes. Chapter 81. Ha 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 ha, friend. Lan Yan and the others just staged a show to help you suppress Zanpakuto, which actually surpassed the friendship and trust we have built over 100 years. I see. Seeing that all his friends didn't believe him, Hiriko Shinji couldn't help smiling miserably, and then didn't say anything else, got up and rubbed the slippers prints embedded in his face, and walked out of the team building of the 9th Division without looking back. Do you think Hiriko is insane? After all, his Zanpakuto is a hallucination type. It is normal to have brain problems after playing too much. It's possible. I heard that there is a disease in this world called persecution delusion, which is very similar to Hiriko's current symptoms. Why don't we go find Sister Wa? Can it be cured? In Seraiti, Kaido is no stronger than Hana, she should be able to heal Hiriko. If it doesn't work, we'll go to Captain Kiryu to try. Everyone looks at me, I look at you, didn't know how to face Hiriko Shinji for a while. Do you believe him? How can you believe him? Don't you believe it? There must be a quarrel when they meet, and there will be too many non-speculative words at that time. After some deliberation, they decided to go to the psychiatric department of the 4th team to register for Hiriko Shinji, and then find a chance to tie Hiriko Shinji there to see if Hana Yakiryu can cure Hiriko Shinji persecuted delusions. Time flies, fleeting. It has been a month since the day when Shang made a big fuss in the meeting hall and defected to Gotei 13. Period. Whether Lan Yan became the captain of the 5th Division or single-handedly suppressed the Zanpakuto rebellion, rumors have long spread throughout Gote 13, and even throughout Seraiti. After this battle, all Shinigami, from the 4 nobles to the Shinigami members, without exception, all realized a fact and reached a consensus. This Shinigami genius, who only took 1 month from entering the Spiritual Arts Academy to graduating and becoming the captain of the guard, is indeed the youngest of the captains of the guard in terms of age and qualifications, but his strength is recognized as the strongest genius in Seraiti's history. He is also recognized as the #1 Shinigami under the captain of the Guti. In addition, the award mentioned by Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni in the meeting hall has been confirmed and distributed after discussion by Central 46. In view of Lan Yan Sosuke's meritorious service in suppressing the Zanpakuto rebellion, and single-handedly capturing the Sinner Shang, after discussion and ruling by Central 46, Lan Yan Sosuke was granted the lower-level nobleman, a noble mansion, and the right to freely enter and exit Central 46. Although the captain's identity, power, and status are comparable to those of a superior noble, it is not the captain himself, but the position of the captain of the court. If it weren't for the Shinigami who was born in a noble family, once he resigned from the position of captain of the guard, his status would still be a commoner. But the lower-level nobles, no matter whether they are appointed as the captain of the court or not, will still not change the identity and privileges of the lower-level nobles. Needless to say, the noble mansion is located in the most prosperous and prominent area of Seraiti. There is also the right to freely enter and exit the 46 room without notification. With the exception of Yamamoto Genryusai, Unohana Yakiryu, Kyoraku Shunsui and a very few guard captains, if other guard captains want to go to Central 46, they basically have to report first and get permission before they can enter. Noble status, noble mansion, aristocratic privilege over ordinary guard captains. Collectively referred to as the noble 3-piece suit. After the news spread in Seraiti, most of the Rukongai-born Shinigami expressed their envy and strong desire for the noble 3-piece suit that Lan Yan had obtained. And Lan Yan himself, facing the award from Central 46, he was also very excited, saying that he had nothing to repay, and he could only present it with the Kyoka Suigetsu Jame Sword Village Jung set meal. To this end, on the day when the noble 3-piece suit was distributed, he brought Aizen, who had just recovered from the 4th team, and rushed to Central 46 overnight. No other meaning. I just want to express my gratitude and respect to every sage and judge in Central 46 face to face. And by the way, I brought some worthless souvenirs, mirror flower water with a Yaodao Muramasa gift pack. Whether it is a sage or a judge, everyone has a full meal of illusion. Lan Yan Sosuke, you came to Central 46 overnight and brought your brother with you, why? While we do grant you free access to and from Central 46, only if reporting is important. The sages and judges in Central 46 are also a bit puzzled, but they are the ones who hand out the noble 3-piece suit, so they can't avoid Lan Yan brothers when they come for the first time. Then, when the Lan Yan brothers walked into Central 46, the supreme judiciary of the Soul Society was already full of people. Whether it is the 40 sages or the 6 judges, because of the absence of 2. In order to demonstrate the authority of Central 46 and prevent Lan Yan from abusing the special, they said that it is not important to enter and leave Central 46. The hollow experiment, and it involves the 4 nobles, is it important? Lan Yan looked around the crowd, facing the power organization composed of many nobles from the Soul Society. He behaved calmly. After all, who would lose face in front of a group of Shinigami whose life and death are controlled by themselves? What? Great nobles are not to be offended. You should think it through carefully. When everyone heard it, their colors suddenly changed. What are the 4 nobles? The existence that stands at the top of all Shinigami nobles in the Soul Society. What is Central 46? It was the supreme judiciary of the Soul Society, which was formed under the leadership of Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni, a union between nobles and nobles. It is not easy to convict the nobles, let alone involve the 4 great nobles. Then I'll ask you again. Is Central 46 inviolable, or the 4 nobles inviolable? The corner of Lan Yan's mouth raised slightly, and he asked back. Central 46 represents the laws and regulations of the Soul Society. There is no Shinigami who can be above, whether it is the captain of the guard, or the 4 nobles. What we mean is that the 4 great nobles are involved, which is no small matter. If there is no definite evidence, then it is not the four great nobles who are being questioned, but you. Lan Yan Sosuke. The sage and the judges looked at each other, and then spoke one after another. Then please let me learn about the laws and regulations of the Soul Society. Lan Yan smiled. Ring River Rebellion, you know it well, but he will hollow, you know. As soon as this word came out, among the sages and judges present, the faces of several people changed drastically. Some are from the Kuchiki family. Some are friends with the Kuchiki family. As the head of the four nobles, it naturally occupies a pivotal position in Central 46. It seems that someone doesn't want you to know. It doesn't matter. Aizen. Lan Yan turned to look at Bai Wang behind him. Meet the sage, the judge. My Zanpakuto, Kyoka Suigetsu's Shikai ability is not a secret in Soul Society. I think you all know it clearly, but there is one thing, please forgive me for not reporting it. Kyoka Suigetsu, in addition to disturbing the enemy through the chaotic reflection of fog and water to kill each other, has another ability, which is to record what is happening through the reflection of water. Aizen took a few steps forward, first bowed and saluted, and then opened his mouth slowly. Every word and deed, abide by etiquette. Even the sages and judges present couldn't find anything wrong with it. In other words, as long as you watch me liberate Zanpakuto once, the truth will become clear. While speaking to the sages and judges present, Aizen revealed the Zanpakuto hanging on his waist. Even if what you said is true, but if I remember correctly, you Aizen was given Zanpakuto by hypnosis by Hibiki's Muramasa, and then injured by your own Zanpakuto. Afterwards, he was sent to the 4th Division for medical treatment. You did not participate in the process of arresting Shang. One of the sages suddenly spoke. It's real. Of the Kuchiki faction. That's right. Just out of an abundance of caution, my brother took my Zanpakuto with him when he went to capture Hibiki. Because he was in the meeting hall, when he first clashed with Shang, he had noticed an unusual Reiatsu in him, that is, a virtual Reiatsu. Aizen said here. The judge at Kuchiki's house was a little restless. But Central 46 is not the Yiyantang of the Kuchiki family, there are other judges and sages there, and who knows if Yamamoto Uenyanagi Shigekuni also knows about this. He is very clear that besides being Lan Yan's younger brother, Aizen has another relationship. That is Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni's 24 disciples. If he interrupts and prevents brother Lan Yan from reporting, then the next time he comes to Central 46 may be Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni. This is Central 46. Represents the supreme law of the Soul Society. There will never be a lie. A judge warned coldly. Your Excellency, please allow me to liberate Zanpakuto in your presence. At that time, right and wrong, true and false, you can tell at a glance. If there is even a little bit of falsehood, I am willing to accept any execution. Aizen said, neither humble nor overbearing. Good. We'll make an exception just once and allow you to liberate Zanpakuto in room 46. All the sages and judges looked at each other and quickly reached a consensus. As for whether Aizen's liberation of Zanpakuto would be detrimental to them, it never occurred to them. Not to mention that they themselves represent the 46 Shinigami nobles, but just to say that the Mao 46 room was led by Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni and single-handedly established. Anyone who wants to turn against them, the first person to face is Ryujin Jaka of Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni. Even disciples are no exception. Forgive me for the offense. Aizen pulled out Zanpakuto, and then shouted the liberation language and Shikai name. In order not to attract attention, the liberation language he shouted was incomplete, but it did not affect the completion of the hypnosis ceremony. Shatter, Kyoka Suigetsu. Hear Aizen's liberation language. A smile flashed across Lan Yan's eyes under the framed mirror. Congratulations to Central 46, and happy to mention the illusion package of Kyoka Suigetsu and Yaodao Muramasa. Yes, although the liberation language and Shikai name that forced the king to shout out are incomplete, it does not affect the result of the hypnosis of the sages, judges, and Zanpakuto in the spiritual space in front of him. For a Shinigami who has mastered Bankai, Zanpakuto can be liberated due to the release of both the libretto and the Shikai name. In other words, as long as Aizen is willing, from the moment anyone sees him, or is seen by him, not only Shinigami will be complete hypnosis, but Zanpakuto in the body will also be controlled by hypnosis. The whole process is silent, Shinigami controlled by complete hypnosis will not know, and Zanpakuto controlled by hypnosis will not know. Similarly, in the original time and space, if Aizen wanted to complete hypnosis Kurosaki Ichigo, he would have countless opportunities, but he didn't want to do that. Click. Accompanied by the sound of broken glass, flowing water and mist immediately curled up in the 46 room. Soon, a stream of water rises up and turns into its original shape, like a mirror, and then a high-definition picture that seems to be immersive is presented in front of everyone. That was the battle between Lan Yan and Shang. But it's what Aizen wants everyone in Central 46 to see. Through the screen, everyone saw that when Shang lost to Lan Yan, he showed the power of Hollow, and a virtual mask appeared on his face. What the hell is Kuchiki Yinling doing? Is he crazy? How dare he do the Hollow experiment and not send us a word? Did you think Hollow's secret would never be known because of the blood burial of Shang River? The judge of the Kuchiki family's face remained unchanged, but his heart was full of anger and anxiety. Before, Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni sentenced Hibiki to the blood burial, and he thought it was the reason why Kuchiki Yinling secretly worked hard to extract the Soul King fragments in Hibiki's body. Looking at the picture in front of me now, my first thought was that Yamamoto Ryusai Shigekuni might know about Shang Hollow, so he intentionally spared Shanghai's life, as evidence to incriminate the Deadwood family later. Shang must die, even if you give up this fragment of the Spirit King. A flash of determination flashed in the eyes of the judge of Kuchiki's house, and then he quietly made a gesture, and Xingjun, who was hiding in the dark and guarding the members of Room 46, left quietly. There are many laws and regulations in Seraiti, but most of the four nobles are basically difficult to convict. There are only a few of them, which are regarded as taboo existences. Even the four nobles have touched them, and after they are discovered, they cannot escape accountability. One of them is Hollow. However, neither the judge nor the departing Xingjun noticed that Brother Lan Shang's peripheral vision kept falling on him. This is your Zanpakuto ability. How do I know that the picture you let us see is not woven by you? Aizen Sosuke. In order to delay time and give Kuchiki Yinling enough time, the judge of Kuchiki's family questioned Aizen's ability on the spot, who was imprisoned in the Palace of Confession and who was about to undergo a blood burial in the near future. Whether it's true or not, you don't know if you send someone to the Confession Palace to test it. But you have to act quickly. If it's too late, even Shanghai's body may not be found. Lan Yan glanced at the judge who had just spoken with a half-smile. Which one of the sages and judges present is not a human being? Of course they heard his implication. It's nothing more than going late, and Shang will be silenced. Do you know why I came to see you today? I just want to give the man behind the Hollow experiment a chance to silence. Aizen and I are at Central 46. The principal is taking a break. Whether you want to rob a prisoner or silence it, it's a good time. What do you think? Lan Yan looked around the audience and spoke word by word. The Hollow experiment is taboo and cannot be violated, even if it involves the four nobles. I think, immediately send someone to the Confession Palace to verify the authenticity. The judge of Tsunayashiro's family was more excited than anyone else, and he was more active than anyone else, and he almost sent someone to protect Shang secretly. How can you make a rash decision based on Lan Yan's own words? The judge of Kuchiki's family was in a hurry. Without hesitation, he immediately turned on the wrangling mode. In short, no matter what, the judge of the Tsunayashiro family is not allowed to send someone to the Palace of Repentance. With the judges of the two nobles taking the lead, other sages joined their respective camps one after another. After all, it was a struggle involving the four great nobles. With Central 46's decay, darkness, and going its own way, it is impossible to make a verdict in a short period of time. Central 46. Is Soul Society legally liable? That's all. After taking a panoramic view of this scene, Lan Yan shook his head lightly. He who has been to the corridor of the Great Spirit Book with Aizen knows very well why the older Yamamoto Yuanryusai will allow such a deformed product as Central 46 to exist. Thousands of years ago, Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni, and Captain Kote of the first generation, what is that? Killer group. We can't expect a group of Shinigami who only know how to kill to govern Seraiti and create laws and regulations at the beginning of the establishment of Seraiti and Gote 13. In addition, there are people behind the five nobles. This is the result of Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni holding the sword, commanding Gotei 13, 5 nobles writing, establishing Central 46, and co-governing the Soul Society. As the rules and regulations that Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni established by himself, it is naturally impossible to overthrow it with his own hands. This is why the ruling of the Central 46 is made, and even the head of the court has no objection. The last value of Central 46 will soon be exhausted. By the time, this relic of the past, whose only purpose is to disappear. Aizen glanced at the 46 sages and judges one by one, as if looking at the 46 corpses, without the slightest emotion. The two of you glanced at each other, and I spoke to each other. In a few words, the final ownership of this old product that has existed in Seraiti for thousands of years is decided. The weird thing is that the 46 sages and judges present didn't seem to hear or see it, as if they didn't exist in Central 46 at all. Brother, it's almost time. We should go too. If we were late, we would have missed a great start. Aizen stopped where he was, as if he was waiting for something. After a while, he said, "It's time to go." Lan Yan glanced at the members of room 46 who were still arguing in front of him, a trace of ridicule flashed in his eyes, and then he turned and left. Seeing this, Aizen followed closely behind. The two left in such a blatant way, but in the eyes of the members of Central 46 and the Xingjun who were on guard in the dark, they stood in place from the beginning to the end, quietly waiting for the verdict of the sage and the judge. Kuchiki Mansion. Wearing luxurious dresses and star pliers on her head, she is the daughter of the Kuchiki family. Kuchiki Mizuki actually knelt at the gate of a courtyard. Let's go back. The punishment of blood burial cannot be changed, even the old man can't do anything about it. It's God's limit to extend it for you by 1 month. The sound of Kuchiki's silver bell came from the room. Father, you are the patriarch of the Kuchiki family and the captain of the 6th division. You have a long history of friendship with the captain. You must have a way to save Shang. Are you willing to watch your daughter be separated from her husband, and live in this mansion for the rest of her life? I don't ask my father to forgive Shanghai's crimes, but I beg my father to shorten the time of blood burial for the sake of my daughter, not as long as 3,000 years. Kuchiki Mizuki begged bitterly. As the captain of the court guard, how can the old man be favoritism? You go back. The matter of Shang is a foregone conclusion. Tomorrow, the old man will personally bury him in blood. Even if you kneel outside for 100 years, it will be useless for 1,000 years, and there will be no change at all. Kuchiki Yinling shouted angrily, but she couldn't bear it in her heart. After all, it is his own daughter, and the only daughter. If possible, he can't bear the heart that she has only been married for less than 50 years, and the rest of her life will only be accompanied by pain and loneliness. However, Gotei 13 was watching him. The Shinigami nobles were also watching him. Even in order to give Seraiti an explanation and clean up the stain on Kuchiki's family, he must personally execute Hibiki. What's more, he still needs to extract the fragments of the Spirit King. How could he give Shang a chance to stand up? Father, Kuchiki Miyu's face was full of tears, and she still couldn't afford to kneel. Why? In the room, after Kuchiki Yinling noticed it, she sighed softly, but there was no tenderness in her eyes. Instead, she invited a servant and ordered him to stay in the room, while he himself changed into Xingjun's clothes and carried Zanpakuto quietly left the courtyard. After leaving the Kuchiki mansion, Kuchiki Yinling stepped on Shunpo, and his figure merged with the night, like a ghost, quietly flashed towards the confession palace. Tomorrow is the day of the blood burial, and it is also the last day to extract the shards of the Spirit King. In addition, through the eyeliner in Gotei 13, I learned that Brother Lan Yan left for Central 46. Although he still doesn't understand the reason, it doesn't prevent him from concluding that this is the best time to do it. From Kuchiki Mansion to Penance Palace. The distance is not too short, but with the strength of Kuchiki Yinling, even if he had to be careful to hide his tracks, he still arrived at the Repentance Palace in only half an hour, and quietly sneaked into the prison Shang without alarming anyone, in the 9th deep cell. Shang, don't blame the old man for being cruel. Quote, although the old man never regards you as the heir of the Kuchiki family, he also regards you as a member of the Kuchiki family, and he will do his utmost to cultivate you. If you are willing to listen to the old man, don't talk about the captain, but you will definitely have a place in the Gotei 13 commander in the future. Kuchiki Yinling stopped at the door of the prison, and focused on Xiong, who was imprisoned inside. What came into view was a burly figure wearing a white prison uniform, with a haggard face and a lonely look. Hands and feet were developed by the Technology Development Bureau, able to confine Reiatsu shackles. Not to mention the use of Reiatsu, it is difficult to even move the hands and feet. There is still the style of being the son-in-law of the Kuchiki family and the third seat of the 6th division in the past. It's a pity that you didn't listen to the old man's advice, otherwise, hey. Forget it, the matter has come to this, and the old man will personally send you a ride. Taking a panoramic view of Xianghai's tragedy, Kuchiki Yinling's eyes fluctuated slightly, but immediately returned to the ancient well. Li Hao as the Shinigami attack who single-handedly pushed the Kuchiki family to the top of the nobility. For the longevity of the Kuchiki family, let alone an unrelated son-in-law, even a close relative, he would sacrifice without hesitation. Laugh. Kuchiki Yinling quietly unlocked the Kido seal that blocked the door of the cell, and then step by step, landed silently and walked up to Xiong, seeing that Reiatsu lost consciousness because of his spiritual power being sealed, and even when he walked in front of him, he was still sleeping soundly. Xiong he didn't notice at all. He took one last deep look at this former son-in-law, Shinigami, who helped him win the head of nobility for the Kuchiki family, and immediately chanted a complex Chinese. However, at this moment, the boundless darkness suddenly surged in, instantly invading his hearing, sight, smell, and Reiatsu perception, making Kuchiki Yinling lose all senses that can perceive external information except the sense of touch. Not good. In the deep prison, Tusen Kanami, who had been lying there for a full month, suddenly opened his eyes, revealing a pair of pupils full of dead gray. Although he can't see it, his innate extraordinary Reiatsu perception allows him to clearly perceive that there is a powerful Reiatsu that seems weak but is actually surging like a mountain torrent, and tsunami is constantly approaching him. Is it finally here? Sure enough, it's not what Master Lan Yan expected. Kuchiki Silver Bell. Tusen Kanami murmured in his heart, after confirming that Reiatsu on the other side was the captain of the 6th division he knew well. Without hesitation, he hid in the dark, the right hand that was also the blind spot of Kuchiki Yinling's vision, and suddenly grabbed the handle of Zanpakuto. Bankai Suzumushi Final Form Yama Cricket. With the body as the center, the boundless diffusion spreads in all directions, forming a huge ellipsoid barrier in the blink of an eye, covering the buildings near the deep prison, and also covering the Kuchiki Silver Bell that is close at hand. I don't know if it was the night or other reasons. In the Confession Palace, such a huge enchantment suddenly appeared. Unexpectedly, it didn't attract any Gotei 13's attention immediately. Vision, hearing, taste, perception are all disappearing. This is for the old man. Trapped in Yanmo Cricket. Facing the sudden darkness. Perceived a sudden loss of many senses. Kuchiki Yinling's complexion changed suddenly, and she secretly said badly. He didn't have time to think about the reason. As the veteran captain of Gotei 13, his seniority is second only to Yamamoto Yuan Yanasai Shigekuni and Unohana Yakiryu. A powerful Reiatsu that can overwhelm thousands of Shinigami, and an extremely amazing sense of combat. Bankai Wanchuan returns to the sea. At the moment when he was trapped in Yanmo Cricket, Kuchiki Yinling did not hesitate for a moment, regardless of whether he would expose himself or cause a commotion, and disregarded Saraidi's prohibition of the guard captain from liberating Zanpakuto. He resolutely liberated Zanpakuto. And the starting hand is Bankai. The rolling torrent, like a torrent and huge wave breaking through a dam, surged mightily in all directions. Almost in an instant, most of the Yanmo Cricket enchantment that swallowed him was filled in front of him. According to this trend, it doesn't even take a second. Yanmo Cricket will only be filled with a steady stream of Reiatsu sea water and then explode. However, clang, just when the majestic Reiatsu current spread and the sky was surging, a cold light suddenly bloomed, as if to illuminate the space of Yanmo Cricket. Before the torrent of Reiatsu submerged and devoured him, Tusen Kanami burst out Muguruma Kensai level Reiatsu from his body, clenched Zanpakuto with both hands, and jumped like lightning, as if fused with Zanpakuto in his hands, turning into a CEDJ edge that cuts everything. Passing through many sea currents, he stabbed into the belly of Kuchiki Yinling. Is it cut off? The moment Zanpakuto pierced through his body, Tusen Kanami knew that he had missed the cut. No, it should be said that he did not miss the cut. This knife was indeed aimed at the heart of Kuchiki Yinling, but under the turbulent waves spreading in all directions, Zanpakuto forcibly changed the route of Zanpakuto's advance, which made it impossible for him to prepare a U, also in the spiritual space, rehearse the attack and killing for a full month but failed to complete it. But it doesn't matter. This knife has met Master Lan Yan's request. Tusen Kanami has no regrets in his heart. Because he knew very well that his purpose of staying in the deep prison of the Repentance Palace for a month in the name of Shang was not simply to assassinate Kuchiki Yinling. This knife seems to have failed to do its best, but in fact it has already done its best. The eyes can see, ear can hear too. Sure enough, the old man guessed correctly, this Zanpakuto is Yanmo Cricket, so you are. Feeling the long-lost pain of being disemboweled by Zanpakuto, Kuchiki Yinling's old face suddenly became hideous. It was precisely because Suzumushi's knife hilt was pierced into his stomach that he subconsciously reached out and grabbed Tusen Kanami's hand, holding the knife together with the knife handle, causing him to lose sight, hearing, and smell. Reiatsu consciousness returns one day. He glanced at the faces of the people who were close at hand. A familiar face came into view. Tusen Kanami. It's really unexpected for me. I didn't expect that besides Brother Lan Yan, there would naturally be a character like you in the first class. It's only been a few months, not even a year, and you have already practiced Bankai. Even Yoruichi from Shihuan's family, and the old man's grandson Byakuya, they haven't practiced Bankai yet. Quote, a commoner Shinigami who was born in Rukongai actually did something that no one in the world could do, and even stabbed the old man. Tusen Kanami. I have to praise you too. Kuchiki Yinling spoke praises, but her tone was as cold as a knife. It could be heard that he was in a bad mood. Shang suddenly turned into Tusen Kanami. He was stabbed for no reason. All kinds of changes made him feel that things were out of his control, and at the same time, he felt uneasiness that he hadn't seen for a long time. As the most outstanding head of the Kuchiki family. Although Kuchiki Yinling hadn't figured out what was going on in front of him, she had faintly sensed that Shanghai's rebellion, Tusen Kanami's assassination, and all of this had a behind-the-scenes manipulator. And he, the majestic captain of the 6th Division and the powerful Kuchiki Patriarch, turned out to be a pawn in the opponent's hands. I didn't expect that the patriarch of the Kuchiki family was so deep. It turns out to be Zanpakuto, the strongest in the water system, who is as famous as the captain's Ryujin Jaka. Wanchuin returns to the sea. Reiatsu Seawater, who almost filled his Yama cricket space with the Tusen Kanami perceiver, was extremely surprised. He knows that Kuchiki Silver Bell is not simple. Otherwise, it is impossible to push the Kuchiki family to the position of the head of the nobles. It's just that I never expected that it would not be so simple. Zanpakuto, the strongest Zanpakuto, which is extremely rare in the Soul Society, actually holds one of them, and it is as famous as Ryujin Jaka. Fine. During the month in the Repentance Palace, thanks to Master Lan Yan, they came secretly, forced Suzumushi to surrender to me, and took the initiative to visualize, and told me Benkai's name, so that I could practice Benkai Suzumushi final form Yanmo Cricket. Otherwise, without this Benkai, even if you do a sneak attack mentally or unintentionally, it is impossible to hurt Kuchiki Silver Bell, who holds the strongest Zanpakuto of the water element. At this time, Tusen Kanami secretly rejoiced, and also sincerely thanked Brother Lan Yan for forcing Suzumushi to surrender, helping him take a shortcut, knowing Suzumushi's Benkai name, and thus mastering Benkai. Otherwise, Zanpakuto's gap, Reiatsu's gap, and Zangquan Zugi's gap cannot be filled by sneak attack at all. It was because of Benkai's boost to Reiatsu after Benkai, and Yanmo Cricket's ability to be extremely suitable for sneak attacks, that he was able to stab Kuchiki Yinling. Of course, the most important reason is that although Wanchuin Guihai of the flowing water system is as famous as Ryujin Jaka of the hot heat system, Kuchiki Yinling is not on par with Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni. Even if Zanpakuto also holds the strongest Zanpakuto in the element system, whether it is the power of Zanpakuto Benkai, or the strength of Shinigami itself and Reiatsu, there is a huge gap between them. Since you have seen the old man's Benkai, and you know that the Zanpakuto held by the old man is the return to the sea with the strongest water system, then you should know very well that you will definitely not be able to get out of this palace of sin today. Shut up and say it. Hiding behind the scenes, plotting everything, manipulating everything, including taking Shanghe away, instigating you to assassinate the old man behind the scenes, confess. Although Kuchiki Yinling was stabbed, but knowing Yanmo Cricket's Bankai ability, and after capturing Tusen Kanami, he was not in a hurry to kill Shinigami in front of him. Compared with obtaining the identity of the Black Hand hidden behind the scenes, he is not stingy with letting Tusen Kanami live a little longer. Who planned all this? Who took Shang away? Who asked you to assassinate the old man? Silence. There is only one dead end. Frankly, there is still a glimmer of life. Kuchiki Yinling burst out a powerful Reiatsu, like ocean currents flowing in all directions. Every time a word is spoken, Reiatsu and the tide will rise to a higher level. Is this the head of the Kuchiki family? Tusen Kanami's face was solemn, facing the overwhelming Reiatsu turbulence. His body trembled slightly uncontrollably, even the bones seemed to be crying to him. Even if they also hold Bankai, the gap between Reiatsu, Zanpakuto, and Bankai is clearly visible and insurmountable. He knew very well that Kuchiki Yinling knew everything about Yanmo Cricket, except for the sneak attack at the beginning. If he fought head-on, within 2 or 3 rounds, he would be cut by the sword. Explain. Kuchiki Yinling yelled suddenly, and the turbulent waves formed by Reiatsu roared towards Tusen Kanami in an instant, as if he would die under the huge waves of Reiatsu if he didn't speak again. Patriarch Yinling, Lord Lan Yuan asked me to say hello to you on his behalf. Facing the oppression of the turbulent Reiatsu huge waves, Tusen Kanami remained calm, and the moment he opened his mouth, Kuchiki Yinling's face changed in horror. Taking advantage of the moment when the other party was shocked, he immediately pulled back and flew back, trying to rush out of the deep prison from the siege of the Reiatsu wave. What? Lan Yan. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Tusen Kanami, you are dying, and you still dare to lie to this old man. Kuchiki Yinling was surprised at first, but immediately didn't believe it. In his opinion, everyone has this possibility, except Lan Yan. For nothing else. It was only because he was in the meeting hall at that time. After Aizen was assassinated, he had stepped forward to check the other party's injuries. According to Yunohana Yakiryu, there is only a thin line between heart and heart, that is to say, there is only a thin line between instant death. With Lan Yan's character of protecting his shortcomings and valuing his younger brother, how could he put Aizen in danger? In his view, Tusen Kanami was just throwing out a random name in an attempt to spark a fight between the Kuchiki family and the Lanshang brothers. No, Captain Yinling, please don't blame Tusen Kanami, he didn't lie to you. Whether it's the knife in your body, or the person behind the scenes who planned and instructed everything you mentioned, it's actually me. Just when Kuchiki Yinling was furious and wanted to manipulate the Reiatsu wave to kill Tusen Kanami on the spot, a familiar voice suddenly came to his ears, making his face stiff. Even the rolling and roaring Reiatsu wave was in the air. Lan Yan, it's really you. The black hand behind the scenes is actually you. Kuchiki Yinling turned her head, and saw an unforgettable figure slowly walking out of the dark corner behind her. Wearing long-sleeved haori, Zanpakuto hanging from the waist, short black, and a pair of framed mirrors that match the hair color on the bridge of the nose. Such a dress, such a countenance. Everyone was telling him the identity of the visitor. No, more precisely, it should be us. Lan Yan smiled lightly and corrected the words of Kuchiki Yinling's words. At the same time, another figure slowly walked out from behind. Similar face and glasses, but without Captain Haori, also clearly informed Kuchiki Yinling of his identity. Aizen. After seeing the person's face clearly, Kuchiki Yinling's face changed again and again, and her body trembled suddenly as if she had been hit hard. No matter how broad his knowledge and experience is, he never thought that Brother Lan Yan would actually be the black man behind the scenes planning all this. Why? After a short moment of astonishment, Kuchiki Yinling was both furious and unbelievable. He didn't understand why a pair of genius brothers who had never been seen before in the Soul Society planned all this. He still doesn't understand, what is the purpose of Brother Lanyan instigating all this? In order to act in a play, even my own brother's life was almost lost. Also, what is the purpose of stealing a dragon and turning into a phoenix, replacing him with Tusen Kanami to assassinate himself? If he really wanted to kill Kuchiki Yinling, wouldn't it be better for Lan Yan to do it himself? If you can change Shang to Tusen Kanami, you can also change Shang to Lan Yan, or Aizen. Most importantly, what are the benefits of doing so? What you mean? Separate you from Hibiki. Force you to abandon him. Cut off your Kuchiki family's arm. or let Tusen Konami assassinate you, or give you a chance to kill Hibiki. I've done too many things, I really don't know what you mean by why. Lan Yan spread his hands and smiled calmly. It's hard work for you. In order to get rid of Shang, he didn't hesitate to put his own brother in danger. Aizen, do you know? The knife that Hypnosis Kyoka Suigetsu gave you was just a tiny bit away, and you would have died on the spot. A brother like this, are you sure he really regards you as a younger brother? Kuchiki Yinling took a deep breath, suppressing his chaotic thoughts. He looked at Lan Yan, and then fixed his eyes on Aizen. If it was normal, he would not be afraid of Lan Yan, but after being stabbed by Tusen Konami, if he fights against the opponent again, he really doesn't have much confidence to win. After all, Lan Yan's Zanpakuto is too mysterious, hidden too deep, too deep. So far no one knows the power of the fully liberated. Let alone Bankai. As expected of Mr. Wang, I have already answered Shang He's similar question. Then, I'll answer you once too. Captain Yinling, when did you start to have the illusion that my Kyoka Suigetsu was hypnosis by Muramasa? Seeing that Kuchiki Yinling actually played a trick of alienation, Aizen's eyes under the framed mirror couldn't help revealing a trace of teasing. What? Wait, hypnosis. I see, your Zanpakuto is not at all the ability you showed to the Seraiti, and your Kyoka Suigetsu is not a Zanpakuto at all. Kuchiki Yinling was startled for a moment, and then seemed to think of something, as if a bomb had been detonated in his mind. After exploding with a boom, he connected all the information fragments before and after, and flashed them in his mind like watching a lantern on a horse, and then he suddenly woke up. Oh, isn't it the flowing water system? Then what do you think it will be? Captain Silver Bell. Seeing that Kuchiki Yinling was sure that her Zanpakuto was not a flowing water type, Aizen was not surprised at all, but the teasing look in her eyes became stronger. The village of Shang is the strongest of all the illusion-type Zanpakuto I have ever seen in my life, bar none. Whether it is the elemental system, the Kido system, or the strongest Zanpakuto in the direct attack system, it is still unable to resist Muramasa's hypnosis. Among all the Zanpakuto, the only one who is completely free from the control of Muramasa's hypnosis is the Zanpakuto, who is also an illusion type and is the strongest illusion type above Muramasa. Kuchiki Ginling stared at Aizen. Hiss, your Kyoka Suigetsu is not a flowing water type, but an illusion type. Zanpakuto, the strongest illusionist. Only in this way can all this be explained. He took a deep breath. Both his expression and his eyes were full of shock. As expected of the captain of Division 6 who single-handedly pushed the Kuchiki family to the top of the nobility. It seems that the Kuchiki family's heritage cannot be underestimated. Come to think of it, since the existence of the Kuchiki family and in the long years to come, all the names and abilities of Zanpakuto that have existed and been known to the world have been recorded by you. Aizen nodded to Kuchiki Ginling with a slight smile on his face. It not only admits that what he said is true, but also praises him. And you, Lan Yan, now that things have happened, there is nothing to hide. Aizen's Zanpakuto is Kyoka Suigetsu, the strongest illusionist, but what about your Kando Yin? Kuchiki Yinling turned to look at Lan Yan. All right. If this is your hospital. Zanpakuto, the strongest in light and darkness. When Lan Yan heard this, he didn't hide it. Anyway, he was just the type of Zanpakuto. As the dual system of light and darkness the strongest. Paired Zanpakuto, and each one independently, is the strongest Zanpakuto in the elemental system. Is that so? After Kuchiki Ginling heard Lan Yan speak out about his Zanpakuto, even as the Kuchiki clan leader, who had seen countless Zanpakuto through family records, he couldn't help but change his face with horror. His heart was like a tsunami, setting off one wave after another, unable to calm down for a long time. Simply because, in the extremely long years since the birth of Soul Society, pairs of Zanpakuto have been born, and pairs of the strongest Zanpakuto have also been born. The only dual elemental strongest Zanpakuto who does not appear in a pair. That's right, this is a reward for your contribution to the hollow experiment. Captain Silver Bell, Lan Yan said with a half smile. Brothers Zuin is the strongest in both light and dark elements. My younger brother's Kyoka Suigetsu is the strongest in the illusion system. How God has favored you brothers. Kuchiki Yinling first murmured, then suddenly remembered what Lan Yan just said. Etc. Hollow experiment. What? The words have not yet finished. He stretched out his hand to cover his face. His old face showed a painful expression, especially the wound left by Tusen Konami, as if something was about to emerge from it. Hollow. You brothers, how dare you conduct hollow experiments on me? Kuchiki Yinling's expression changed again and again, and her tone was filled with shock and anger. Just now, he had been speculating about the Lan Yan brothers planning all this. What was the hidden purpose behind it? But I never expected it. Just when he was trying to delay time and keep probing the other party's secrets, something earth-shaking happened inside his body. A Reiatsu that is different from Shinigami and is opposite to Shinigami, but seems to be symbiotic with each other, erupts from the body like a volcano erupting and magma spewing out, which cannot be suppressed at all. If not, why do you think we are here? Why do you think I told you about Zhu Yin? As I said just now, this is because you have made extremely penultimate contributions and sacrifices to Hollow's experiment. You should be honored for this. Apart from my brother, Captain Ginling, you are the first and only Shinigami in Soul Society who knows that Tokage is the strongest Zanpakuto in the light and dark system. Want to delay? No, this is just us waiting for the results of the Hollow experiment and acceptance. Lan Yan looked at Kuchiki Silver Bell and said with a funny look on his face. Aizen on the side carefully watched the changes in Kuchiki Ginling's body and Reiatsu. Emotional stimulation will intensify the Hollow. As well as the Hollow process, Reiatsu's amplification. When Kuchiki Ginling was in the Hollow process, all the data presented were kept in his mind. I am one of the 4 great nobles. The leader of the Kuchiki clan, with noble royal blood. Do you know how serious the consequences of doing this are? Taint the royal bloodline and conduct the Hollow experiment. Even the Gote captain cannot bear the responsibility for this crime. Kuchiki Ginling felt the madness of the Reiatsu that belonged to the Hollow in his body, as if a Hollow was about to come out of his body. The intense pain forced him to use Zanpakuto as a crutch and stab the knife into the ground to support his body from falling. Keep using Shinigami's Reiatsu to suppress. Interesting. I have used many death row inmates in the Penitence Palace for experiments. They were all Shinigami before they were alive, but as a result, the moment the Hollow experiment was performed, they all turned into a pool of spiritual material similar to Manos Grande, and then seemed to transform into spiritual children. Generally, it dissipates and disappears, leaving only the dead domineering outfit. It's not dead, but living cannot maintain the physical existence, which is equivalent to death. Only you, Captain Silver Bell, actually suppressed Hollow's erosion of the body again and again after the start of Hollow in this irreversible process. Moreover, the body did not disintegrate due to the collision of Shinigami and Hollow's spiritual power. On the contrary, in this process, your Reiatsu will continue to improve. Is it because Captain Gote's Reiatsu concentration is too high, or is it because of the royal bloodline you are proud of as you mentioned? Aizen ignored Kuchiki Ginling's incompetent arrogance and roar. Instead, he continued to stimulate the other party with words, trying to speed up Hollow's progress. Why? Choose me. Kuchiki Ginling also saw it. Brother Lan Yan is not only audacious, but also regards all the rules and laws of Soul Society as nothing. We didn't choose you, but you chose us. Lan Yan chuckled and shook his head. When Kuchiki heard this, she seemed to think of something. Under the influence of Hollow, her pupils became more and more similar to Manos Grande's eyes and suddenly tightened. It seems you remembered it. It's really hard for you. Captain Silver Bell. The attack and killing of 2 Shinigami freshmen in the dormitory of Spiritual Arts Academy is just a trivial matter to the Kuchiki family, but you can remember it in your heart, and remember it so clearly, which really makes me feel honored. Lan Yan said word by word. Hiriko Shinji pressed forward step by step in the kendo gym, and he directly caused the opponent to lose his position as captain of the Gote and all his glory overnight. There was an attack on himself and Aizen in the Spiritual Arts Academy dormitory. How could he let Kuchiki Ginling have an easy time? Since the head of the Kuchiki family wanted to kill all their brothers, he would return the original amount. Kill Shang. Capture Muramasa. Wood Ginling's material for the Hollow experiment. This is not the end of the matter, but the prelude, the beginning of the climax. The attack on your brothers at Spiritual Arts Academy has nothing to do with me or the Kuchiki family. The captain has secretly sent someone to investigate. In fact, he already knows who did it. It's just that the person behind it is unusual. Before there is definite evidence, in order to prevent you from acting impulsively, he didn't tell you. Kuchiki Yinling endured the pain of hollow eroding her body, and said in a calm tone as much as possible. You have misunderstood me. Stop it, it's still too late to turn back now. Lan Yan, Aizen, with your penultimate contribution to Soul Society and the captain's love for your brother, it's not too late to look back now. He persuaded somewhat staccatoli. Byakuya Kuchiki. After Lan Yan admired Kuchiki Yinling's sophistry with great interest, he calmly said a name. After hearing this, Kuchiki Yinling's expression did not change much, but a hint of haze flashed in the depths of his pupils that glowed with a strange yellow light. When he heard the name Byakuya Kuchiki, he knew that all excuses were useless. It turned out that as early as the moment he asked Byakuya Kuchiki to test brother Lan Yan, he had already been seen through. No wonder. This pair of brothers will deliberately plot against themselves and the Kuchiki family. It turned out to be because of the seeds he had planted. Sprouted. I have always believed that your brothers are geniuses that the Seraiti have never seen in thousands of years. Not limited to Shinigami's ability and Zanpakuto, but also the will, means, castle, and strategy. Facts have also proved that I did not misjudge you, but you have misjudged me, and even more so the Kuchiki family. Kuchiki Yinling gently exhaled a breath of turbid air, and even his breath was filled with traces of hollow spiritual substance. To this, he ignored it, but used a slight force on the hand holding the knife and propped up his body. 1 second ago, Reiatsu is still extremely confused, with constant conflicts in his body, and it is extremely difficult to even stand. 1 second later, Reiatsu is still confused, but the intensity is rising steadily, and the pain on his face quickly disappears. Who do you think I am? What do you think the Kuchiki family is? Lan Yan, Aizen, you are indeed amazing. In just a few months after becoming Shinigami, you have no power and power, but you can turn this old man and the entire Kuchiki family upside down. But there is one thing that you only did wrong, and that is you have despised me, you have despised the Kuchiki family, or your humble background has restricted your vision. Every time Kuchiki Ginling spoke a word, the Reiatsu released from the body increased by 1 point. As a veteran captain, after Bankai, his Reiatsu itself is terrifyingly powerful. Looking at the entire Soul Society, there are only a few that can surpass it. In Gotei 13, the only people who can defeat him in Reiatsu are Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni and Unohana Yakiru. Even Kyoraku Shunsui and Jashiro Yukitaki, as well as Denshu Kiryu and Shutara Senjumaru who have not yet become Team Zero Ichiban, cannot say that they are absolutely superior to him, Kakaki Ginling. After all, any Gotei captain who has lived for more than hundreds of years would not have a few trump cards. But now, after becoming the experimental material of Hollow, during the process of Hollow, Kuchiki Ginling's Reiatsu broke through the previous bottleneck and is still climbing. Before you conduct the Hollow experiment on me, you should try it on other Shinigami. So you thought that I would be like those Shinigami and have no choice but to be at the mercy of your brothers during the Hollow process, right? That's wrong. I know Hollow 100 times better than your brothers. As Kuchiki Ginling spoke, he raised his Zanpakuto and waved it lightly. Boom! The terrifying Reiatsu was released along the blade, turning into an extremely powerful sword pressure, cutting a huge gap in the Reiatsu current flowing all around, and at the same time, carrying the majestic power of a blue dragon out of the sea, it was released towards Tusen Kanami. Boom! Seeing the terrifying sword pressure sweeping over him, Tusen Kanami couldn't help but look horrified. Before, he had realized that if he fought Kuchiki Ginling head-on, he would be killed by the opponent's sword in a few rounds, but now, in just a few rounds, he was not even a single enemy. Boom! There was a loud noise, and Tusen Kanami, with his sword in hand, was mixed with the Reiatsu current soaring into the sky, and was blasted away by the sword. Before he landed on the ground, he was already so embarrassed that he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood mist. It was obvious that he was seriously injured. Both are Bankai, but the gap is so huge. After falling into the sea current, Tusen Kanami's heart was filled with turmoil, and he could not calm down for a long time. One knife. He actually couldn't even catch Kuchiki Ginling's sword. To know, although he took back the Yama cricket and blocked all senses except touch, it does not mean that he took back Bankai. At this time, still in Bankai, his Reiatsu is still very powerful, definitely on the level of Muguruma Kensai. The results of it. Kuchiki Yinling swung the sword at will, but it was just a sword pressure, and he still couldn't catch it. You little brat who doesn't know the heights of heaven and earth. Do you think that mastering Bankai will put you on the same level as me? Mastering Bankai is just the beginning. Both Zanpakuto's Shikai and Bankai can evolve with the improvement of Shinigami. A Bankai of your level, in my eyes, is just a childish sword dance, not worth mentioning. After Kuchiki Gingeling had a clear view of Tusen Konami's expression, he still didn't know what the other person was thinking. Yeah, Tusen Konami felt angry and resentful. He originally thought that with the help of the Lanyan brothers, he could master Bankai in one fell swoop, and that he could challenge with the four nobles, but he never imagined that the gap would be so huge. This means that he is still far from getting revenge on his old friends. Back off, do. Just when Tusen Konami wanted to open the barrier space of Yama Cricket again and seize Kuchiki Ginling's various perceptions, Lanyan asked him to step back. Don't be angry, because anger will reduce your wisdom, and don't be hateful, because hate will affect your judgment. Captain Yin Ling's words may not sound very pleasant, but they are not wrong. The sneak attack of Yama Cricket can only happen once. If you use it again, you will only be destroyed by his sword. Lanyan's words made Tusen Konami suddenly wake up from his anger, followed by heart palpitations and gratitude. His heart palpitated because he knew what would happen if Zanpakuto in Bankai State was destroyed. Grateful, it was because of Lanyan's awakening that he avoided this miserable fate. Smart choice. Kuchiki Yinling secretly thought it was a pity. He knew the abilities of Yama Cricket like the back of his hand. Once the barrier is opened, not only him, but also Lanyan and Aizen will lose vision, hearing, taste, and Reiatsu consciousness except touch. But holding the strongest Zanpakuto in the flowing water system, he has a way to retain all kinds of consciousness in the barrier. At that time, he can also use Tusen Konami's Bankai ability to counterattack the Lanyan brothers. I didn't expect that you all worked so hard to make me become a material for your brothers to conduct hollow experiments, but in the end the power of hollow can be used by me. This is the gap between commoners and nobles, it has been determined from the moment of birth. It's not talent, and it's not something Zanpakuto can easily make up for, let alone surpass. Although Kuchiki Ginling felt a pity that he could not borrow Tusen's Bankai and turned against the Lanyan brothers, he did not feel worried about it. Instead, his words showed the momentum of having the overall situation under control. No matter how many tricks you use, you will never predict that as early as thousands of years ago, even before the 10,000 years, our Kuchiki family has already conducted Hollow's experiment, but for some reason, in the end, it was just abandoned. Birth limits your vision, bloodline limits your knowledge. My Zanpakuto, plus Hollow, we are already in a completely different dimension. Understood. Lanyan Sosuke. Understood. Aizen Sosuke. To be honest, I'm very grateful that you just told me so much, but unfortunately, you brothers still lost in this round. The only fault is your arrogance and rashness, which gave me time to master the power of Hollow. Kuchiki Ginling said confidently. However, Brother Lanyan's next reaction made him feel a haze in his heart. You are indeed the man we expected. Captain Silver Bell. Seeing that Kuchiki Silver Ling was able to control Hollow, and even combined Hollow's power with Shinigami's power, Lanyan was not surprised but showed an expression as if it was true. We should be the ones to say it. Thank you very much for helping us get the most important information about the Hollow experiment. Chief of the Yinling clan. Aizen shook his head. He was not panicked at all because Kuchiki Ginling had mastered the Hollow power and his strength had reached a higher level. Instead, his tone showed a bit of gratitude. What's the meaning? Can't you accept the result of failure after all the calculations? It's meaningless. No matter what you do, no matter what backups you have, my Zanpakuto alone is enough to crush everything. When Kuchiki Yinling saw this, the haze that haunted her heart became even thicker. It's just the last step. Captain Yinling, please help us one more time. Let us know how tall the Shinigami nobles with royal blood are after Hollow. Lanyan said as he stretched out his hand to Zanpakuto at his waist. Apparently, whether it was using the Kuchiki Silver Bell to conduct the Hollow experiment, or giving the Kuchiki Silver Bell enough time to master the Hollow, it was all part of his and Aizen's plan and part of their experiment. Now, it is time to accept the final hollow results. Gotei Captain Level Shinigami, the head of the Kuchiki clan with royal blood. Kuchiki Ginling, who knows hollow well. Plus a Zanpakuto, the strongest flowing water type. How much improvement can such Shinigami get after hollow? All of these are important results that are necessary to break the boundaries of Shinigami. What? When Kuchiki Yinling heard this, she still didn't know that everything she had just done to delay time and control hollow was all within the expectations of brother Lan Yan. It's not that the other party doesn't know, but they do it on purpose. This also made him feel a little bit creepy, who had never changed his expression when Mount Tai collapsed in front of him. He felt like he was tied to the operating table and was an experimental subject that had been thoroughly studied. Everything is under the control of brother Lan Yan. Your Kido is very dissatisfied with you not using his power recently, but often using Zanpakuto. He said that he also wants to dance. As long as you are willing to use him in battle and allow him to dance, he will give you a move for you. Tailor-made, the Kido forbidden technique that has just been successfully created. Just as Lan Yan put his right hand on Zanpakuto, a voice came from his ear. My own Kido forbidden technique. Interesting. Anyway, Kido has rarely been used recently, so I'll let you go out into battle this time. Lan Yan's eyes flashed with hope. Soul Society's Kido has more than just Hado numbers 1 to 99, and Bakudo numbers 1 to 99. Just Hado and Bakudo numbered 1 to 99, Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni compiled all the Kido created by Shinigami over the thousands of years of Serai, selected the Kido that are most suitable for Shinigami to learn and use, and then woven it into Spiritual Arts Academy's Kido teaching materials for Gotei 13's Shinigami training. In fact, in addition to Hado and Bakudo numbered 1 to 99, Serai also circulates many Kido that are not recorded in the Kido Encyclopedia, and some of them are also listed as forbidden. There are also many Gotei captains, vice captains, and even chief officers, and they all have their own Kido. Of course, creating your own Kido does not necessarily mean it is better than the Kido in No. 99. On the contrary, the Kido who can be recorded in number 99 by Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni, without exception, are extremely outstanding, otherwise they would not be able to enter the eyes of the strongest Shinigami in millennia. But when it comes to him, the situation is different. Lan Yan is well aware of how talented Kido is. The products produced by our own Kido must be high quality. Not to mention, the homemade Kido forbidden technique is tailor-made for him. For this reason, he decided to use Kido to help Kuchiki Ginling come to an end. What do you mean? Kuchiki Yinling saw Lan Yan first hold the handle of the knife, but then let go immediately. He thought that the other party had some conspiracy, and he suddenly became vigilant. After experiencing Shanghai's tragic defeat and his own tragic situation, he had experienced how ruthless the Lan Yan brothers' methods were, and he no longer dared to underestimate the pair of brothers in front of him who had only been practicing Shinigami for a few months. Nothing. I just suddenly feel that Captain Yinling, you may not be qualified to die under my Zanpakuto. So I changed my mind and used Kido to accept Hollow's results and give you a ride. Lan Yan's words made Kuchiki Yinling's blood pressure soar, and even the strength of Hollow who was being held became a little unstable. Qian's factory. Arrogant. If your purpose of doing this was simply to humiliate me, then you did it. Lan Yan Sosuke. Kuchiki Ginling's deep yellow eyes, no different from Manos Grande's, burst out with chilling murderous intent. Who is he? Captain Yuan of the Gotei 6th Division. The Shinigami clan leader who single-handedly pushed the Kuchiki family to the top of the nobility, and holds the strongest flowing water system, Zanpakuto. The results of it. In Lan Yan's mouth, he received a comment that he was not worthy of death under his Zanpakuto. Under the influence of Hollow, he, who was already emotionally unstable, flew into a rage and went completely berserk. All rivers converge, accompanied by a roar mixed with boundless anger and ferocious murderous intent, with the Kuchiki silver bell as the center. The rolling Reiatsu current continued to vent, like the mouth of a giant beast, drowning the Lan Yan brothers and Tusen Kanami. Less than a second, the entire penitentiary fell into the turbulent Reiatsu current. Call out. Faced with the Kuchiki silver bell, who in a fit of rage, caused a huge wave of Reiatsu that could submerge the penitentiary. Aizen and Tusen Kanami immediately disappeared, and when they reappeared, they were already standing directly above the torrent. Where's Lan Yan? Kuchiki Yinling stood with his feet on the torrent of Reiatsu. He glanced at Aizen and Tusen Kanami not far away. After realizing that Lan Yan was missing, he immediately withdrew his gaze. Reiatsu's consciousness spread and his eyes searched everywhere, trying to find Lan Yan's figure. The location was found out. Captain Silver Bell, are you looking for me? Suddenly, a voice came from behind Kuchiki Silver Bell. So fast. Kuchiki Yinling's pupils contracted, she felt cold all over her body, and the hairs on her body stood up one by one like steel needles. Reflexively, he slashed back with the knife. Boom. The sword flashed, and the torrent of Reiatsu rolled below and responded immediately. The water flow rose up from the sea and turned into a huge water slash, dragging the unstoppable force like a mountain torrent and tsunami, and submerged Lan Yan's body. Poof. However, after the water flow slash landed on Lan Yan, it was as if it was slashed in the air, no blood flowed out, and even the figure that was slashed slowly faded, and gradually disappeared like a mirage. Afterimage, Kuchiki Ginling was shocked, and Reiatsu searched everywhere consciously. Suddenly, he turned his head suddenly, and Lan Yan's figure appeared out of thin air in the area in his sight. No hesitation. The blade swept away. Reverse Dragon Halberd. As the waves of Reiatsu splashed, a dragon-headed trident formed entirely by the water of Reiatsu flew towards Lan Yan and successfully penetrated his body. However, the next second, just like before, the hit Lan Yan quickly changed light. Apparently, another afterimage. What a shunpo this is, even the patriarch of the Saifeng family is far behind. 2 consecutive fierce attacks failed. Kuchiki Ginling felt frightened by the shunpo shown by Lan Yan, and at the same time she became more and more restless. Don't underestimate the power of the Kuchiki family. The words just fell. He raised his sword and stabbed it in the sea of Reiatsu that submerged the penitent's palace at his feet. Boom. Under the roar of the earth-shattering waves, 1, 2, 3, hundreds of Reiatsu water dragons broke out of the sea, dragging the huge dragon body, releasing the destructive power. In the surrounding area thousands of meters of sky travel freely. Wherever it passes, the powerful force directly compresses the air until it is as viscous as water, causing waves to ripple. Facing the extremely large-scale attack unique to Zanpakuto, the strongest elemental system, Lan Yan still showed a calm look. He neither drew out Zanpakuto to deal with it, nor even used kendo or white hits. He only relied on shunpo, and was surrounded and pursued by hundreds of Reiatsu water dragons flying in the sky, and he repeatedly dodged at critical moments. Even if you are hit occasionally, you will soon find that it is just an afterimage. Faced with the bites, collisions, and entanglements of numerous Reiatsu water dragons, Lan Yan took a leisurely stroll and passed by, as if dancing with the dragons. Even if Kuchiki's silver bell drew a fierce attack from hundreds of dragons, it still couldn't hurt him at all. Not to mention hitting it, it didn't even hit his sleeve. All free in hockey. Aizen-sama, is it really okay? What I mean is that the other party is the patriarch of the Kuchiki family after all, and the Zanpakuto Manchuanguihai he holds is still the strongest in the flowing water system, and now it is hollow. The commotion here is so loud that even if there is a barrier to block it, Gote 13 cannot be hidden. Soon Shinigami who heard the news will come from all directions. What's more, if you hide for a long time, you will need medical treatment. Tusen Kanami saw Lan Yan flying freely among hundreds of dragons like a butterfly through flowers. He hesitated for a moment, but couldn't help but ask. In his opinion, even if Lan Yan does not use Bankai, he should liberate Zanpakuto, eliminate Kuchiki Silver Bell as quickly as possible, and then evacuate the Palace of Confession. After all, as long as the strength behind Kuchiki Silver Bell Hollow is accepted, tonight's operation will be considered a complete success. Gote 13 and Central 46 will take care of the rest. If you hide for too long, you will lose. Yes, on what basis do you say such a thing? Do you think my brother's strength is based on Zanpakuto's Adfe foundation? If you think so, you're wrong. What's scary about him is not the use of candlelight. After hearing this, Aizen couldn't help shaking his head and laughing. Although Candle Shadow has a terrifying ability, this Zanpakuto is just one of the pieces, a piece of the puzzle that makes up my brother's terrifying strength. Kido, Kendo, Shunpo, White Hits, Reiatsu, and Zanpakuto. Candle Yin is just one of the 6 pieces of the puzzle. If his terror was based solely on Zanpakuto, how could I possibly see him as a target to pursue throughout my life? See clearly, he is not superior to me in any one aspect, but all the powers belonging to Shinigami are superior to me. After hearing Aizen's words, Tusen Kanami suddenly became horrified. It's not that he doesn't know how powerful Lan Yan is, on the contrary, in his heart, he has a very clear understanding of Lan Yan's power. That is, Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni is the strongest Shinigami he has ever heard of, and Ahiko is the strongest Shinigami he has ever seen in his life. Same. As Lan Yan's younger brother, Aizen is also a powerful and insurmountable presence in his heart. I originally thought that even if the younger brother is not as good as the older brother, it is still in Zanpakuto, or Shinigami's ability is lagging behind in a certain aspect, but now Aizen actually admitted in front of his Tusen Kanami that the 6 pieces of the puzzle that made up Shinigami's complete power were all behind Lan Yan. Why doesn't this make his hair stand on end? Call out. As if to confirm Aizen's words. Just when Tusen Kanami was horrified by Aizen's words, Lan Yan, who had been relying solely on Shunpo to dodge, faced the fierce attack of Kuchiki Ginling in his sight and suddenly disappeared. Reiatsu's consciousness can't catch up. Kuchiki Yinling's face, which was mostly covered by the virtual mask, suddenly broke out in cold sweat. Originally, his Reiatsu perception had adapted to Lan Yan's speed, and he had even thought about how to deal with this speed. Unexpectedly, Lan Yan's speed had actually improved to a higher level than before. The speed was so fast that it completely exceeded the detection of his Reiatsu senses after being enhanced by Hollow. Snapped. Suddenly, something strange came from the back of his head. Reiatsu's consciousness locked and he immediately realized that it was a finger pressing against the back of his head. Even though it was just a light touch with his fingers and there was no harm at all, it still made Kuchiki Yinling's whole body stiffen, and he felt a chill that penetrated into his bones, rising from the soles of his feet, along the muscles, blood vessels, and internal organs of his body, until it surged up to the back of his head. He did not dare to neglect and immediately used the Shunpo obtained from the Shihuan family. Empty cicada. Lan Yan looked at Kuchiki Yinling's back, taking in his every move. He didn't stop him, but instead retracted his index finger that was tapping the other person's head. Just when your fingers leave the back of Kuchiki Ginling's head, turn your right hand over with the palm facing up. Hado number 90 Black Coffin. Boom. With loud thunderous noises, Lan Yan's upward palm burst out with jagged purple-black Reiatsu lightning that made people feel chilled all over. Boo-hoo-hoo. In the 4 directions of the Kuchiki silver bell, strips of purple-black light extend up, down, left, and right at the same time, and then along the purple-black light, deep purple-black light curtains rise upward, connecting all the lights together. In the blink of an eye, the combination of light and light curtain forms an extremely huge black rectangular object that reaches the sky. From a distance, it looks like a giant black coffin that even a Shinigami can bury and swallow up all light and life. After Kuchiki's silver bell was buried in the coffin, the terrifying Hado did not stop there, but continued to show a more terrifying side. As the purple-black light continues to converge, black coffin's form gradually transforms from the purple-black Reiatsu shape to the real thing. It's like changing from an illusory image to a material substance. If the black coffin form at the beginning is quite similar to the black coffin that Aizen cast when he defected to Soul Society and gave up chanting Komamura Sajin for a second, then as time goes by, it begins to move closer to the black coffin that Hogyoku Aizen performed by fully chanting. The former is illusory, sell with caution. But just when the giant black coffin was infinitely close to its substance, it suddenly stopped, and then sharp blades that looked like crosses, exuding an ominous and destructive aura, appeared out of thin air. Falling from the sky, they stabbed black coffin all over. Rumble. A stream of gravity that distorted an area of the sky surged out from within black coffin, filling every corner of black coffin in an instant, constantly twisting, destroying, and shattering the Kuchiki silver bell imprisoned in black coffin. Body. This is number 90's Hado, and it can be used without chanting. Wait a minute, this form of black coffin is very close to the fully chanted black coffin form described in the Kido Encyclopedia. That is, when Tusen Kanami saw this scene, he was so shocked that even his eyes, which had lost their sight for many years, suddenly opened wide, and his face was filled with horror. It seemed that the mental impact of the black coffin in front of him was too strong, causing his already intermittent words to suddenly stop at the end, unable to continue. Yes, even if he gives up chanting, my brother's black coffin still has 2/3 of the power of full chanting. With this kind of destructive power, even the Gote captain with the 18-chariot Kensai Reiatsu can be severely injured in an instant and lose the ability to fight on the spot. Aizen chuckled and said what Tusen Kanami couldn't finish because he was too surprised. However, the next second, his face changed slightly, and a trace of surprise flashed through his eyes under the framed mirror. Something completely beyond his expectations seemed to have happened. Triple. Lan Yan looked at the huge black coffin rising from the ground in front of him and murmured in his mouth. Boom. Black coffin, which had been fully unleashed and showed 2/3 of its full chanting posture, did not disappear after releasing a gravity flow that was enough to distort the atmosphere. Instead, outside the original foundation and on the periphery of black coffin, strips of purple-black light emerged again, and then the lights were connected together by a purple-black light curtain. After one black coffin, another black coffin appears again, wrapping the original black coffin. Not only that, when the second black coffin covered the first black coffin, the familiar purple-black light and purple-black light curtain appeared again in the sight of Aizen and Tusen Kanami. After, the third black coffin appeared, swallowing up the first two black coffins, as well as the Kuchiki silver bell. Tisk tisk. Creepy sounds of material distortion continued to come from inside the triple black coffin. It seems that the gravity flow released by the triple black coffin is too terrifying and has overflowed from the inside. As the terrifying black current spread out, the dark night was directly distorted, showing a terrifying Uzumaki shape. Even the Reiatsu current that submerged the penitent's palace could not withstand it and was sucked into it without a trace. Just when Tusen Kanami couldn't help but worry about whether Soul Society's sky would be unable to bear it and was crushed by Lan Yan's triple black coffin with every movement of his hands and feet, the triple black coffin that stood on the sky like a Reiatsu mountain came out the sound of shattering mirrors. Click. Like broken porcelain, from the outside to the inside, the black coffin shattered one after another, turning into almost substantial Reiatsu fragments, and then gradually dissipated into the night. As black coffin dissipated, the twisted sky returned to its original state, and a shocking twisted figure appeared below the Palace of Confession. Poof! When Lan Yan lowered his palm with the palm facing up, bursts of scarlet blood mist suddenly exploded from the crooked figure, and then the hand holding the knife and all four limbs exploded into blood mist. Only a blood-red torso was left, barely suspended in midair. Tick! The blood flowed like a waterfall, dripping onto the floor of the Confession Palace, which had just been submerged by the Reiatsu Sea, and finally saw the light of day again, dyeing the Zanpakuto, the strongest flowing water system, which also fell on the ground, red into blood. Kuchiki Yinling's eyelids trembled slightly and he opened his eyes with difficulty. Emotions such as anger, consternation, shock, disbelief, etc. flashed by, and finally turned into deep disbelief. Lan Yan. The corner of his mouth squirmed slightly, and he tried his best to squeeze out a complete name from his mouth. Snap. As soon as he finished speaking, Kuchiki Ginling, who was left with only an inhuman torso, seemed to have exhausted the last strength to support his body. After a while of swaying, his body fell weakly and fell next to his Zanpakuto. Gulu. The huge Confession Palace was so silent that there was no sound. Even Tusen Kanami's voice of swallowing saliva due to excessive fear could be heard clearly. Black coffin. Moreover, while still abandoning chanting and retaining 2/3 of the power, black coffin number 90 appeared 3 times in an instant. Is this really something a Shinigami can do? Tusen Kanami faced Lan Yan's direction and stared blankly. Although he couldn't see clearly and couldn't see Lan Yan's face clearly, he could use his Reiatsu perception to capture the opponent's movements, abandon chanting, and perform the triple black coffin. He even constructed a picture in his mind. It was a majestic figure who could shake the sky with one hand while chatting and laughing. This moment, Tusen Kanami, who had no hope of regaining his sight and no longer longed to restore his sight, had an unprecedented desire for the first time. He longed to regain his sight. He longed to be able to see with both eyes, and then use these regained eyes to see Lan Yan's appearance with his own eyes. See clearly what this man who respects and is loyal to him looks like. Is it heroic? Is Haki Zeonin still graceful and luxurious? I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.